Chapter 574. This is the infirmary. Jitsutsang Na introduced the place to Noah in the infirmary of the Colt King Academy. This academy used to be an all-girls school, and girls tend to have weaker bodies. The infirmary is a necessary facility for Colt King Academy. If possible, I suggest you stay in the infirmary as much as possible. If the infirmary is so important, what about the previous infirmary teacher? Noah was confused. Before me, there should be other teachers who were healthcare teachers, right? The previous infirmary teacher has retired, Jitsutsang Na replied. Since the infirmary teacher had been working here for a long time, the academy hasn't hired a new infirmary teacher for a long time. That's why the academy is in a hurry to hire another infirmary teacher after the previous infirmary teacher retired. Coincidentally, the resume that Noah uploaded on the internet mentioned that he was involved in this field. Colt King Academy replied to Noah. After all, in a school with a high proportion of girls, there were definitely a lot of girls with weak physiques. If there were any setbacks, they would easily get injured. Infirmary teachers were very important to Colt King Academy. Thinking of this, Noah suddenly realized a very serious problem. Since Colt King Academy had a higher proportion of girls, it meant that girls were more likely to come to the infirmary. Didn't that mean that Noah would have to take care of a bunch of girls? But there were some places that were not suitable for boys to take care of, right? With this thought in mind, Noah smiled bitterly to himself. There was no difference between a boy and a girl to a doctor. There was only the difference between a healthy person and a sick person. Unfortunately, Noah was not a proper doctor. Were the people of Colt King Academy not afraid that they would hire a scumbag who could not control his lower body and use his identity as an infirmary teacher to do some dirty things with the girls? Forget it, if the others didn't mind, Noah wouldn't mind either. I understand. If there's nothing else, I'll stay here, Noah said to Jitsutsang Na. Thank you, Jitsutsang Na. You can go back to class. Got it, teacher. Jitsutsang Na bowed to Noah. Behind him, Zhuangji did the same at the same time. Then, we'll take our leave first. With that, Tsang Na left the infirmary with Zhuangji. Noah then walked around the rather spacious healthcare room. After a while, he stopped in front of an office desk. He looked at the white coat stacked on top of it and shrugged. I didn't know that I would be wearing this thing one day. I really want Erica and Liliana to see this and get rid of their impression of me as a destructive maniac. After that, Noah picked up the white coat that was folded on the desk and put it on. He sat down and picked up a health and physical education book on the table and flipped through it. Jitsutsang, who was leading Zhuangji, walked unhurriedly along the empty corridor. His face was still full of wisdom and a little serious and cold. After a while, Jitsutsang Na stopped in his tracks and opened his red lips. You came to urge me to go to the classroom just now. Why are you still here? As soon as he said that, the red-haired girl walked out from behind a pillar. She leaned against the pillar and crossed her arms. Her beautiful eyes stared directly at Jitsutsang Na. Her expression became a little funny. I'm more surprised that you're so concerned about a new teacher. Usually, even if you have this kind of guiding mission, don't you just give it to someone in the student council? Aren't you the same? You came out of the school dormitory just for a teacher? Jitsutsang Na closed his eyes and said calmly. Do you really think that teacher is just an ordinary new teacher, Liesi? This sentence changed the atmosphere in the room. If you must know the answer, then I can only tell you that I don't know, Liesi said bluntly. That teacher is just like any other normal person. There's nothing special about him. At least, I don't feel that he's different from normal people. Same for me. Jitsutsang Na's already serious expression became even more serious. But, I just feel that something is wrong. You think so too? Liesi smiled, but there was no smile in her eyes. Undoubtedly, there's nothing strange about him, but I just feel that something is wrong. I had this feeling when I saw him in the dormitory, but it disappeared when I came out. I don't even know what to say to that teacher. So, you're here to take a look, right? Ji Tsutsang Na's tone became a little helpless. I knew you're not the kind of person who would rush me into the classroom. I'm sorry, I was a little mischievous, Lias said after a teasing remark. Hey, Tsang Na, do you think we should talk to that teacher? Do you think he might be related to us? Ji Tsutsang Na opened his eyes, a strange light flashing in his eyes. But, we didn't notice anything strange, right? That's true, but I think it's better to talk to him. Liesi looked at the direction of the infirmary and suddenly smiled. Such an interesting person has appeared in my territory. How can I not make contact with him? Is that so? Ji Tsutsang Na said calmly. What if, in the end, he's just a normal human? Well, isn't that good? Liesi's smile became even more beautiful. As a human, if he can interest me, Liesi Jimenez, then there's enough reason for me to talk to him. Maybe, he's a good seedling. Good seedling. Ji Tsutsang Na hesitated for a moment before asking. You want him to be your chess piece? Liesi did not answer Ji Tsutsang Na's question directly. Instead, she shrugged. Who knows? Just like that, Noah stayed in the infirmary reading until school ended. He did not receive a single patient. That was probably because the academy had not announced the hiring of a new infirmary teacher, or the academy wanted to let Noah familiarize himself with the environment of the infirmary before officially opening the infirmary to the public. In any case, Noah was idle for the whole day until the evening. When he was sure that no one would come to the infirmary, Noah took off his white coat and walked out of the infirmary. In the evening, most of the students in the academy had left. Because of this, Noah did not receive the same amount of attention as when he came to the academy in the morning. He walked out of the academy quietly and walked in the direction of his apartment. Beep beep. On the road, the sound of car horns echoed around. Standing at the crossroad, Noah, who was waiting for the green light, suddenly had a thought and glanced at a place not far away. There, a girl dressed like she came from the 2D world was handing out flyers to the people around her, and soon, she sent it to Noah. Please accept this. Noah silently took the flyer from the girl's hand. His eyes followed the girl as she left, and a trace of surprise slowly appeared in his dark eyes. That's not a human, right? Saying so, Noah lowered his head and looked at the flyer in his hand. It was a flyer that was similar to a card. On top of it, there was a sentence written in an exaggerated circle. Fulfill your wish. And under such a sentence, there was a delicate magic circle drawn. Normal people would probably regard this leaflet as some inexplicable spread of religion and belief, or perhaps a prank by some abnormal person, and disregard it, right? However, Noah would not do that. Because, Noah found that the structure of this magic circle was quite reasonable. If this magic circle was really activated, it would definitely cause magic and magical phenomena to occur. Noah had learned a lot of magic, such as crush magic, enhance magic, and runi magic. So, on this point, Noah was still certain. Noah calmly stuffed the flyer in his hand into his pocket and the corner of his mouth unconsciously curled up. Things seemed to be getting more and more interesting. Chapter 575. Successfully becoming a teacher at the Colt King Academy was something that Noah experienced on the 4th day of his arrival in this world. However, compared to the ordinary 3 days that had been uneventful, Noah could be considered to have gained something today. At the very least, Noah had confirmed that this world was not as ordinary as it appeared. Lias and Chiquangna, who had special magical powers in their bodies. The girl who gave Noah a flyer on his way home. She did not have the slightest hint of a human, as if she was some strange creature. If he still thought that this world was ordinary after meeting these people, Noah's head should really be thrown into the recycle bin. With that, there were many things that Noah needed to confirm. For example, who were Lias and Chiquangna? And what was the purpose of the flyer that the girl who did not have the slightest hint of a human was giving to Noah? Sitting in his own apartment, Noah held up the flyer with a magical circle drawn on it and muttered to himself as he looked at the line of words that was deliberately circled on it. Fulfill my wish, huh? Could it be that making a wish on this flyer could really fulfill my wish? Noah was more or less skeptical about that. If it were some simple wish, Noah would not doubt that it could be fulfilled. However, if it were said that all wishes could be fulfilled, Noah could not help but doubt it. After all, even Noah, who had slain a god, did not dare to say that he could fulfill the wishes of others, let alone a flyer that could be found anywhere. Anyway, let's give it a try. After making up his mind, Noah began to seriously consider it. But what should I wish for? As for Noah's wish, it wasn't that he didn't have one. If possible, Noah wished that his two lovely fiancées could live happily and peacefully for the rest of their lives. His grandfather could also live a long and healthy life without illness or pain. His family and friends could also live happily for the rest of their lives. If he was more extravagant, Noah also wished that he could recover all the lost world fragments and restore the feathers in the world between to their original form. That was Noah's truest wish. On the other hand, Noah himself did not have any wishes that he wanted to fulfill. If one had to say it, Noah's wish to give Mira and Lisanna a beautiful marriage was also Noah's wish. Furthermore, Noah also wished that the lovely girls he knew in other worlds could live happily. Now that I think about it, don't I have quite a lot of wishes? Noah could not help but complain. However, Noah would not say those wishes on a flyer he found on the street. So, what other wishes could he make? After a while, Noah's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Speaking of which, I also want to know about Leah Jimenez and Kangna. I wonder if this wish can be fulfilled. As soon as he said that. In Noah's hand, the intricate magic formation engraved on the flyer suddenly lit up and flashed with a blinding red light. Noah raised an eyebrow and let go of the flyer. However, the flyer did not fall to the ground. Instead, it floated into the air and turned into a 2-meter-wide magic formation before landing on the ground. The next moment, a burst of starlight floated from the center of the magic formation and gathered together to form a figure that was imprinted in Noah's vision. The light gradually dissipated. The magic formation also disappeared bit by bit. Only the figure standing on the spot slowly opened her eyes and met Noah's gaze. It was an extremely petite girl. The girl looked to be only 13 or 14 years old. Her height was only about half of Noah's, and her figure was very slender. She had shoulder-length silver hair that was combed very smoothly, and there was a black kitten ornament above her temple. She was very cute. Of course, the cutest thing about her was that doll-like face of hers. Her small face was very smooth, and although her facial features were slightly immature, the face formed when put together was really as delicate as a doll's. Coupled with a pair of big eyes, she was really very cute. However, there was almost no trace of emotion on this cute face. For a moment, Noah thought that he had summoned Athena and could not help but smile bitterly. Today, I really met people who look like acquaintances. This sentence, the petite girl did not seem to have heard. After the magic formation was completely hidden, there was still no emotion on the girl's face. She only politely lowered her head to Noah. "Hello, I'm Touching Kitten, a demon who answered your summons and came to fulfill your wish." As soon as she opened her mouth, the words that came out of the girl's mouth shocked Noah. Demon? Noah was surprised. Only then did he realize that Touching Kitten's aura was very similar to that of Leah's, Ji Chuetsong, and Zhuang Ji. There were also traces of that very special mana in her body, which was almost identical to that of Leah's, Ji Chuetsong, and Zhuang Ji. Could it be that the aura and mana were unique to demons, and that was why she was so special? There were demons in this world? Or demons that were almost no different from humans? Noah's curiosity was piqued at once. That. Noah scratched his cheek. "Can I just call you Kitten?" The kitten nodded heavily twice in agreement. There was still no emotion on her doll-like face, as if she was not good at communicating. "All right, Kitten," Noah asked curiously. "Are you really a demon?" The kitten nodded again. She did not say anything, but used her actions to prove her identity. Slap. With a slapping sound, a pair of wings suddenly spread out behind the kitten's back. Those were black wings that looked like a bat's wings, but also like a sickle with many sharp thorns. The moment it spread its wings, a deep, dark magical power rose from the kitten's body. Noah, who clearly sensed it, understood what was going on. Just like how Naz, Wendy, Laxus, and Gadgelu, the dragon-slaying archmages, had a ferocious and powerful mana aura like that of a ferocious beast, the mana in the kitten, who called herself a demon, also carried the characteristics of a demon. That was the feeling of darkness. That feeling of mana was very similar to Myra's mana. Mira, who was able to receive the power of a demon, had this feeling of mana. The kitten, who also had the same type of mana, was probably a demon without a doubt. However, since this mana was very similar to that of Lias, Ji Tsutsong, and that Vice President Zhuang Ji, did that mean that Lias, Ji Tsutsong, and Zhuang Ji were also demons? Noah felt that he seemed to have peeked into a corner of the mystery of this world. Because there was a wish to be fulfilled, demons responded to the summoning of those who wished. Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this scene. "Alright then, cute Miss Demon," Noah asked. "Since you came out from the magic circle engraved on the flyer, then the one who distributed the flyer today shouldn't be a demon too, right? That's the demon's familiar." The kitten replied with a clear and low voice, but her pair of big eyes were fixed on Noah. She was very cute. "You're a little strange." "Strange?" Noah blinked, not expecting the kitten to suddenly say this. "What's strange about it?" "Movement and posture," the kitten said. "There's not a trace of redundancy, and there's not a trace of flaw. It's very refined. That's something only those who have been training in martial arts would have." That was it. That was the reason why Leah and Chika Kangna felt that something was not right about Noah even though there was nothing strange about him. Nonetheless, while Leah's and Ji Kangna could vaguely sense that, they could not fully understand what was wrong. Because the two girls were not martial artists, even if they sensed that something was wrong, they could not figure out the reason. And yet, the kitten easily sensed it. That also proved that the kitten had a certain level of attainment in combat techniques. "That's not really strange, is it?" Noah shrugged. "Let's not talk about that. Cute Miss Demon, can you fulfill my wish first?" The kitten did not pester him and simply nodded. Chapter 576. Demons would answer the summons of humans and fulfill the wishes of humans in exchange for a price. This was even recorded in the Bible. It was also the impression humans had of demons since ancient times. However, the standard demons in the Bible would fulfill the wishes of humans in exchange for the human's soul and life. Now, when demons answered the summons of humans and appeared in front of them to fulfill their wishes, they would also collect a price. However, it was not as exaggerated as directly taking their soul and life. As the price for fulfilling their wishes, humans could pay demons with items or money. As long as it was something of equivalent value to the wish, it could be used as payment. In other words, the price that humans had to pay would fluctuate according to the degree of the wish that was fulfilled. In this day and age, almost no humans would casually trade their soul and life, and no one knew how to summon demons. Therefore, demons would engrave the summoning magic formation on flyers and distribute them. They would appear in such a way to fulfill the wishes of humans. How should he put it? After learning about this from Kitten, Noah's impression of demons had completely collapsed. That's right, he did not feel any fear at all. Rather, if there really was a demon that was summoned to Noah through the magic formation and induced Noah to give up his soul and life, such a demon would have been killed by Noah long ago. In any case, Kitten's appearance had piqued Noah's curiosity. Therefore, Noah decided to play with Kitten for a while. "Before I tell you my wish, I have a question for you." As if he was entertaining a relative, Noah and Kitten sat down at the small round table in the middle of the room and looked at each other across the table. Under the expressionless gaze of the kitten, Noah glanced at the kitten and said with a spurious smile, "You, don't tell me you're a student of Chariot King Academy?" Kitten was obviously stunned. She then lowered her head and looked at her body. At this moment, Kitten was wearing the uniform of Chariot King Academy's female students. There was nothing better than this to prove that Kitten was a student of Chariot King Academy. "I thought you looked a little familiar." Noah did not know whether to laugh or cry. "I didn't expect that the demon I summoned was actually my student." "Student?" Kitten was stunned again, and then understood. Are you a teacher at Foal King Academy? I'm a new healthcare teacher. I just started today. You'll probably get the news tomorrow. Noah shrugged. For the time being, I'll say thank you for your guidance. Only then did Kitten react. Her face returned to its original expressionless face and she nodded at Noah. Then, teacher, please tell me your wish. Since you're also a student of Chariot King Academy, there's no need for me to explain, Noah said straightforwardly. You should know Lias Gimli and Jitsu Kangna, 2 third-year students, right? Hearing Noah's words, Kitten was really surprised. It was as if he had heard a name that should not have appeared, but was closely related to him. He was very surprised. Of course, the kitten was only surprised in its eyes, but its expression did not change much. However, he didn't know if it was Noah's illusion. He felt that Kitten's gaze towards Noah was a little more cautious and vigilant after he mentioned Lias and Jitsu Kangna's names. Sensing that, Noah confirmed that Kitten really did know Lias and Jitsu Kangna. However, Noah did not give up on his idea, and simply said it out loud. Actually, my wish is to know about those 2 third-year students. The more detailed, the better. This sentence caused the vigilance and wariness in Little Cat's eyes to become even more intense, but her tone was still as indifferent as before. I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that wish. Noah teased, as if he had expected that. Why? It involves personal privacy, the kitten said. Also, it feels a little dirty. Noah almost fell over. Why does it feel dirty? Could this girl be thinking that Noah wanted Lias and Jitsu Kangna's information to woo them? Even if that was the case, it wasn't dirty, was it? Or did Kitten think that Noah was some kind of stalker? Noah was a little speechless. Your thoughts are too extreme. I'm just curious about the famous people in the academy. How could a beautiful girl like Lias and an icy beauty like Jitsu Kangna not attract attention in an ordinary high school? Even though he had only spent a day in Colt King Academy, Noah more or less knew about Lias and Jitsu Kangna's reputation in the academy. It was said that Lias was the most popular student in the academy, while Jitsu Kangna was the 3rd most popular student. Both boys and girls looked up to them and worshipped them. Perhaps that was why Kitten thought that Noah wanted Lias and Jitsu Kangna's information because he had an ulterior motive. As a matter of fact, Noah had met many people like Lias and Jitsu Kangna who were revered by others. Most of the people Noah met were excellent and had outstanding looks. Like Lias and Jitsu Kangna, they were more or less admired by others. That was why Noah was really just curious about Lias and Jitsu Kangna, as well as some information about this world. He really didn't have any other intentions. Perhaps she saw a hint of sincerity in Noah's dumbfounded expression, but Kitten remained silent for a while before shaking her head in rejection. Even so, you can't leak information about the seniors without permission. Noah paused for a moment at that, and started to like the petite girl before him. She looked just like a child, but he didn't expect Kitten to be so considerate. Alright, I'm just interested. It doesn't matter if I don't get it. Noah waved his hand casually, but became troubled again in the next second. If that's the case, the contract with the demon is broken, right? Kitten furrowed her brows without a trace. She seemed to be a little distressed. If that's the case, my demon's performance will drop. It's very troublesome. Is that so? Noah chuckled awkwardly as he complained inwardly. So demons talk about performance too, huh? Don't you have any other wishes, teacher? Kitten asked seriously. If there's anything you need help with, just let me know. I'm very good at manual labor. Manual labor? Kitten was good at manual labor? He really couldn't tell how a petite girl like her could be good at manual labor. Kitten frowned. I feel like teacher is thinking of something very impolite. No. I'm not. Noah couldn't help but look away, but he was stared at by Kitten, as if she wanted to see through Noah's thoughts. Her gaze became very sharp. Immediately, Kitten stood up, and under Noah's puzzled gaze, walked to the bed at the side, stretched out her hand, and put it on the edge of the bed. Hey, along with an emotionless, weak, and soft cry, a scene that made the corner of Noah's eyes twitch appeared in the next moment. Who? The bed that was several times heavier than Noah's was lifted up high by the petite kitten, and stood on top of Kitten's head. Lifting such a heavy object that could easily break the seemingly slender arm, Kitten's expression didn't change at all. She seemed to be at ease, and even her voice didn't change. I'm very good at manual labor. Kitten repeated as if she wanted to prove herself. Noah's mouth twitched again and again. I understand. Anyway. How about you put down my bed first? Kitten nodded, and then called out, hey, emotionlessly, and put the bed that was lifted above her head back to its original position. Sure enough, you can't judge a book by its cover. She was a demon after all, so there were still some strange things about her. Although he didn't know whether giving a petite and cute girl monstrous strength was strange or regretful, at that moment, Noah rubbed his eyebrows. Well, I just moved here anyway, and there are still a lot of things to tidy up. Since Kitten is good at manual labor, then help me move the furniture. Kitten nodded her head in satisfaction. Then, the contract is established. Chapter 577. The next day, Noah left his house early in the morning and headed to Foal King Academy under the guidance of the apartment manager. Noah's apartment wasn't very far from Foal King Academy. Even if he were to walk, it would only take him about 20 minutes. This amount of walking wasn't even enough to warm up Noah's muscles, so he naturally didn't find it troublesome. If Noah were to seriously run, he would be able to reach Foal King Academy in less than 3 minutes. Even so, Noah still chose to wake up early and slowly walked for 20 minutes before arriving at Foal King Academy. The surrounding students were still the same as yesterday, staring at Noah. The chatter wasn't as loud as yesterday, but there were still quite a few students watching. Especially the female students. He wasn't sure if they specifically asked around about Noah, but he could vaguely hear them mention words like teacher and health center. Presumably, they already knew that Noah was a teacher in this academy. Under these circumstances, Noah could only obediently accept his fate, although he still didn't know why he attracted so much attention. Walking on the road to the health center, Noah suddenly saw 2 girls supporting each other. Ouch, it hurts. Who told you to run so fast? I thought I was late. Seriously, when will you stop sleeping so soundly in the morning? Hearing this, Noah stopped in his tracks, rubbed his nose, and walked toward the 2 girls supporting each other. Do you need help? The 2 girls immediately jumped in fright and quickly turned around. When they saw Noah, they exclaimed in surprise. Teacher. Teacher Noah? It really is Teacher Noah. For a moment, Noah really didn't know what to say. If possible, Noah really wanted to ask when his name was leaked, and where did the news of him being a teacher come from? Even 2 random female students knew Noah. Was he that famous? However, Noah's intuition told him that it was better to ask less about this kind of thing. Otherwise, he would definitely lose something very important. Thus, Noah chose to ignore the 2 girls and looked at the ankle of one of the girls. Although there didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary, this girl's leg was slightly raised in the air and was trembling slightly. She didn't dare to step on the ground, so it was obvious that she had sprained it. If he continued to force himself to move like this, sooner or later, it would swell up, right? At that moment, Noah half knelt down and slowly placed the girl's foot on his knee. Don't move. Let me take a look. Hearing this, the girl immediately froze. She didn't even dare to move. Noah used his hand to press on the other party's ankle a few times. When Noah pressed on one of the ankle positions on the knee, the girl softly cried out, as if she felt pain. Noah secretly nodded and pressed his hand on it. While gently massaging, he quietly extracted a trace of magic from his body and injected it into the hand that was pressing on the girl's ankle. If Noah knew magic or magic specifically used for healing, then he could make other people's injuries get better in minutes. Unfortunately, Noah didn't learn any magic or magic for healing. However, the use of magic was very broad. The vitality and recovery of people who had magic were much stronger than ordinary people. This proved that magic was directly linked to vitality. Therefore, if he directly used magic to heal others, it would more or less increase their recovery. For small injuries like sprains and abrasions, it wouldn't take long to recover. In the past, in the world of the Dark Bullet, when Noah was taking care of the children of the cursed child, he also used this method to treat injured and sick children. In addition, the cursed child originally obtained a super strong regenerative ability because of the protozoan virus in their body. With this combination, any small illness or injury could be immediately recovered. After a while, Noah stopped and clapped his hands. Okay, try and see if it still hurts. Yes. Yes. The girl carefully tapped the ground with the tip of her foot, and then a surprised expression appeared on her face. After her foot directly stomped on the ground a few times, she said happily. It doesn't hurt anymore. Really? The other girl who had been supporting the girl was also surprised. It's healed so quickly. It's just a slight sprain. It's not a big deal. Noah stood up and reminded them. Although it's healed, still be careful not to overdo it. It's very likely that it will trigger an old injury. Do you understand? The two girls nodded repeatedly, looking at Noah with twinkling little stars in their eyes. Under the gaze of the two girls, Noah turned around and was shocked when he saw the scene around him. He didn't know when it started, but he was surrounded by students from the school. Almost all of them were girls. When they looked at Noah, their eyes were sparkling like the two girls. The new teacher is so gentle, really, and so amazing. He healed the injury in an instant, and so handsome. That's right, that's right. Such discussions began to sound from all around. Noah could not help but be shocked by the scene in front of him and took 2 steps back. Then, he realized that his actions were inappropriate and smiled at the girls around him. As a result, the girls around him screamed. Look! Look! The teacher is smiling at me. Liar! Undoubtedly, he's smiling at me. No! He's smiling at me. He's smiling at me. He's smiling at me. He's smiling at me. It's me. Things seemed to be developing in a strange direction. Noah, who encountered this situation for the first time, felt his head begin to hurt again. He quickly turned around and ran in the direction of the infirmary like he was escaping. Now, Noah could finally be sure. If it was not that the girls in this school were too bad, then it was that the girls in normal high schools all over the world were bad. Stud King Academy, Infirmary. Sitting in front of the desk in the infirmary, Noah endured the weakness in his body while sighing at the 3rd grade girl sitting across from him. She was blushing and looking at him. Then, student, where are you feeling unwell? Teacher. The girl who seemed to be in the 3rd grade seemed to have been waiting for a long time and said shyly. I feel that my head has been hurting recently, especially when I stay up late. Then don't stay up late. Noah really wanted to say this, but in the end, he suppressed it and squinted his eyes. The 3rd grade is a very important stage. After all, you're about to graduate and enter a higher school. I know that 3rd grade students have a hard time, but you can't stay up late. It's better to sleep early at night. I'll give you some medicine to help you sleep at night. If you can maintain a routine, then you'll be fine. Yes. Teacher. The 3rd grade girl nodded and got up excitedly. She ran out of the infirmary as if she did not have a headache at all. Not long after, outside the infirmary, Noah heard the girl's excited voice and a group of envious girls. Hearing this, Noah felt even more powerless. When he saw the situation outside the infirmary, he almost collapsed on the ground. This was because outside the infirmary, there was a long line that went straight to the end of the hallway. And all of the people in the line were girls. Teacher. I just sprained my foot. Undoubtedly, I saw you running in, teacher. My hand is scratched. Look. It's bruised. That's just the dust on the wall, right? Teacher. I feel like I'm sick. But I see that you're quite energetic, aren't you? Teacher. I'm also lovesick. Then you should be looking for your boyfriend, right? What are you doing here? Teacher. Please marry me. Looks like you really need to let me take a look. Come, put your head over here, let me see if there's a puncture. Similar scenes kept repeating in the infirmary. What's wrong with the girls in this school? Just when Noah could not help but close the door, a cold and majestic voice sounded. What are you doing here? Chapter 578. What are you doing here? Under such a cold and dignified voice, the noisy corridor instantly quieted down. Immediately, Ji Qichang-na slowly walked from the other side of the corridor with Zhuang Ji. His sharp eyes, wearing glasses, scanned the surroundings. Don't you know that your noise has affected the normal class? The group of female students gathered outside the infirmary immediately looked at each other. It's almost time for class. You all gathered here, are you planning to skip class? Ji Qichang-na pushed his glasses on the bridge of his nose and said indifferently. If that's the case, then please come with me to the student union. I will ask the student union to invite your class teacher. The surrounding female students finally began to retreat as they shouted in unison. Sorry. Mr. President. Then, all the girls gathered outside the health room scattered like birds and beasts. That scene was exactly the same as when Noah was still in the world of The Night of the Sorcerers, and the group of boys in Sanyi High School who loved to court death was scattered by Qing Zi's roar. Noah couldn't help but laugh. Sorry, teacher. Then, Ji Qichang-na walked into the health room with Zhuang Ji and bowed to Noah to apologize. The students in the school have caused you trouble. Shouldn't those students be the ones apologizing? Noah waved his hand. The student union president has no reason to apologize, right? However, Ji Qichang-na said this. But I am the student union president in this school. I have the obligation to be responsible for the students' troublesome behavior. Hearing this, Noah directly replied. But I am also a teacher in this school. Being troubled by a group of cute students is also a teacher's obligation, right? This time, Ji Qichang-na did not know what to say and sighed. Teacher, you are so gentle to girls that you caused this kind of trouble. Noah asked strangely. Where did this come from? The new healthcare teacher is a very gentle and considerate person. He is also very handsome. Zhuang Ji, who was standing behind Ji Qichang, suddenly said. The news has already spread throughout Chariot King Academy. Perhaps the news of the teacher treating the girl who sprained her ankle on the main road of the school this morning has spread out? Ji Qichang-na added. That's why all the girls in the school gathered in the infirmary just to take a look at you. I knew it. Noah rubbed his forehead and sighed. I just did what I should have done. Why is the rumor so exaggerated? Teacher's age is only 2 or 3 years younger than us students. To us students, it's actually within the category that we can get close to. Moreover, this is also a teacher's popularity. It's a good thing to be welcomed by everyone. Ji Qichang smiled faintly. However, if it's possible, it's better for teacher to decisively reject when the time is right. Like just now, many of the girls clearly didn't come with the intention of seeing a doctor. At this time, teacher should chase them out. Otherwise, it will only cause more trouble in the future. Thank you for your kind suggestion. Noah shrugged helplessly. I will do as you say in the future. That's good. Chokangya nodded. Just as he was about to say goodbye to Noah and leave, behind him, Zhuang Ji suddenly called out to Chokangya softly and gestured to a corner of Noah's desk. Ji Qichang-na followed Zhuang Ji's gaze and looked at Noah's desk. In the next second, he narrowed his eyes slightly. Noah naturally sensed the strangeness of Ji Qichang-na. After glancing to the side, a hint of understanding and a faint smile flashed across his eyes. On the side of Noah's desk, there was a leaflet with a magic formation engraved on it. It was the same size and shape as a card. That was the leaflet used to summon demons. Yesterday, after Kitten helped Noah move the furniture, she left this leaflet and told Noah that if he had any wishes, he could summon them at any time. As for the price to pay for the demons to fulfill their wishes, it was the same as before. It was calculated according to the size and value of the wish. Noah felt that it would be useful to summon these demons to help him, so he kept them. Anyway, the price was not very high. At least, yesterday, after Kitten helped Noah move the furniture, the reward she asked for was a lot of snacks that Noah bought from the supermarket in the apartment. So, it was fine to just treat the summoning of demons as the house of everything. However, now, this leaflet attracted Ji Chitsong Na's attention. Noah had already guessed that Ji Chitsong Na was a demon like Kitten. Not only Ji Chitsong Na, but even Zhuang Ji behind Ji Chitsong Na was a demon. However, looking at Ji Chitsong Na's reaction, it seemed that Ji Chitsong Na did not know that he summoned Kitten last night. Could it be that the demon's work was not related to each other? Noah asked even though he already knew the answer. What's wrong? Student Union President? Here, teacher. Ji Chitsong Na stepped forward and picked up the leaflet, looking straight at Noah. This leaflet is? Well, it's something interesting. Noah closed his eyes and put on a mischievous smile. A cute little girl gave it to me. It seems to be useful, so I kept it. Is that so? Ji Chitsong Na's eyes flickered a few times and returned to normal after a while. He put the leaflet back and smiled at Noah. Teacher, please don't lose it. Of course. Noah replied with a smile. Why? Is the president interested in this? A little. After Kangnaji said this, he retreated and bowed slightly. Then, we'll take our leave. Take care. Noah nodded and did not say anything else. He glanced at Zhuang Ji who was staring at him from behind Ji Chitsong Na and leaned back in his chair with a smile. He started flipping through a book. Ji Chitsong Na walked out of the infirmary with Zhuang Ji. He lowered his head as he walked toward his classroom. His bright glasses reflected a dazzling light. It seems that Liaz is really taking action. I'll just sit back and enjoy the fruits of her labor, and wait for her conclusion. Just as Ji Chitsong Na said, Noah's name had spread throughout the Cult King Academy in just a day. Now, as long as it was free time, every girl group that had gathered together would discuss Noah. This caused the news of a very handsome, very elegant, very gentle, and very considerate teacher to spread like wildfire, and it was very exaggerated. The students who had stayed in the academy for a long time knew that a person who could become famous in just a day would definitely be a famous person in the academy in the future. Like Liaz and Ji Chitsong Na, as well as the famous people in the first, second, and third years had all gone through such a period. Now, they were all well-known people in the academy. Noah was lucky enough to be one of them. However, among the teachers, it seemed that Noah was the only one who received such treatment. That was probably the same as what Chokang said. Because Noah was only 2 or 3 years older than the students in this school, he didn't give the students too much of a sense of distance. Of course, under such circumstances, the fact that Noah could become a teacher at his age, which should have caused a sensation, was drowned out by the group of girls. Very few people mentioned it. Just like that, Noah spent his second day in Chariot King Academy amid the hustle and bustle of school life. Since there might be students who needed treatment even after school ended, Noah couldn't leave right after school was over. He had to wait until the gates were about to close before he could pack up and leave. That was why it was already evening when Noah came out of the infirmary. Almost all the students in the academy had left, and he didn't see a single person. Noah smiled bitterly as he recalled the day's events as he walked out of the academy. But just as he was about to step out of the gates, he suddenly paused and raised an eyebrow. Whoosh! At the same time, a figure burst out of the bushes nearby. Chapter 579. Whoosh! Like a ferocious beast, the man in black, who was wearing a cloak and whose face was tightly covered by the hood of the cloak, and holding a wooden saber in his hand, shot out of the bushes at a speed that made people feel dizzy, and rushed towards Noah's direction. Whoosh! At the next moment, the black-clothed man whose entire body was almost completely hidden in the cloak raised the wooden blade in his hand. Accompanied by the sound of wind tearing, he slashed fiercely in Noah's direction amidst the whistling of the wind. He flew out of the bushes, and then violently shot to Noah's side, raising the saber and chopping down. Throughout the whole process, the man in black's performance was extremely smooth, without any sense of stagnation. It made people feel that less than a second had passed, and the wooden saber, which carried the whistling sound of wind, chopped towards Noah, which was very shocking. Noah, who had also diligently practiced swordsmanship since childhood, could tell at a glance that the man in black in front of him was very exquisite in swordsmanship. Even though he was not as talented as Tony, who specialized in swordsmanship and had extraordinary talent in swordsmanship, the man in black's swordsmanship attainments were probably not far from Alusha's, and probably on par with Electra's and Liliana's. Compared to swordsmanship, the man in black's speed was more shocking. However, no matter what, he still could not shake Noah. Noah, who had already sensed the movement in the bushes and the aura of the man in black, had already moved when the man in black raised the wooden saber over his head. Therefore, when the man in black's wooden saber chopped down with the whistling sound of wind, Noah had already unknowingly taken a step to the side. Whoosh! The violent wooden saber chopped down with a whistling sound, and fell on the position where Noah was just a moment ago. It brushed past Noah's shoulder, and then fell into the air. Almost at the moment when the wooden saber fell, Noah stretched out his hand and gently put it on the back of the wooden saber, pressing down the man in black's wooden saber. He raised his eyes, gazing at the man in black's face hidden in the cloak, and smiled indifferently. Since you want to attack, then don't use a wooden saber. How about directly attacking with a real sword? The only part of the black-clothed man's chin that was exposed moved slightly. His expression seemed to have changed, but he quickly recovered. He tightly gripped the wooden blade in his hand and viciously slashed at Noah's waist. Whoosh! With another sharp sound of wind, the wooden saber drew a flat trajectory in the air in the space in front of the man in black. However, this blow still fell into the air. With a thud sound, Noah tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and leaped away. Taking advantage of the fact that the man in black was about to execute a horizontal slash, he retreated rapidly to the back. While nimbly leaping backward step by step, he deliberately commented with skill and ease. No matter if it's attack speed or movement speed, they're both very impressive. Your swordsmanship isn't bad either. However, your sword is telling me that you're holding back. Otherwise, that wooden blade wouldn't pause for about 0.7 seconds every time before it attacks. Or are you just playing around? Or are you testing me? The man in black was silent. After a while, he threw away the wooden saber in his hand, and stretched out his hand, reaching under his cloak. At the waist of the man in black, a sheathed sword was hidden in the cloak. Only now did it poke its head out, and the man in black grasped it and slowly pulled it out. The sharp sword body shone with a dazzling arc light, and the cold edge slowly flowed on the sharp blade, making the rays of the setting sun emit a blood-red color, which made people's hair stand on end. There was no doubt that it was a real sword. Oh. Do you intend to use your real strength directly? Noah narrowed his eyes, and smiled faintly. Then, why don't you be more straightforward, and use your full strength? The man in black was still silent, and only tightly grasped the hilt of the sharp sword in his hand, and his body slightly leaned forward. Clatter. The next moment, the crisp sound of footsteps sounded, and the whistling sound of the human body charging forward also sounded. The man in black directly disappeared. That was a super high speed that even the naked eye could not catch up with. Clang! Immediately, the sound of gold and iron clashing, followed by a burst of sparks from the friction, reverberated. That was the sound of the man in black sword landing on a short weapon in Noah's hand at some point in time. No. That short thing that was about the size of a palm could not even be called a weapon. Because, it was just a fountain pen. Seeing that his sword attack was blocked by a fountain pen, the black-clothed man was shocked. Amazing speed. Holding the fountain pen, Noah, who blocked the man in black slash, through the sparks that constantly rubbed against each other, shot his gaze directly at the man in black, and the corner of his mouth curved upwards. Unfortunately, if it's just fast speed, there are many ways to deal with it. After finishing his words, Noah turned the fountain pen in his hand, as if he was trying to pry open something, and fiercely knocked it upwards. Clang! The man in black soared suddenly, as if it was suddenly flicked away, and uncontrollably rose upwards. In the next moment, Noah directly raised the fountain pen in his hand, and without even removing the pen cap, suddenly stabbed it, and fiercely pierced the man in black's chest. Dong! A sound that was not so much of a stab from the fountain pen, but more of a sound that was like being hit by a blunt object, came from the man in black's chest. Goo-woo! The man in black spat out a bitter sound, and his body seemed to have been hit by something heavy, and flew out, smashing onto the ground. Rubbing against the ground, he awkwardly rolled a distance of more than 10 meters before he flipped over, stabilized his body, and knelt on the ground with one knee. Cough, cough, cough. Unstoppable coughs came from the man in black's mouth that was hidden under the cloak, and he clutched his chest, as if he was in great pain. Seeing this, Noah withdrew the fountain pen that he stabbed out. Looking carefully, the surface of the fountain pen was actually covered with lines that looked like electric wiring. Those were the lines that were unique to the Enhance magic. Through the Enhance magic, to strengthen its hardness, that short fountain pen was able to block the slash of a sharp sword. Otherwise, even if Noah was able to react in time and use the fountain pen to block, the fountain pen would have been directly cut in half. Of course, only Noah knew the secret behind this. The man in black who did not notice this abnormality only thought that Noah used a fountain pen to block his full-strength blow, and even gave him a heavy blow. While he was still catching his breath, he was still in shock. Testing up to here should be enough, right? Noah looked straight at the man in black kneeling on the ground, and the fountain pen in his hand kept spinning. Who are you? With that kind of swordsmanship and speed, you can't be an ordinary person, right? The man in black's coughing stopped abruptly, as if he was forcefully holding back. He raised his head, and under the cloak, his gaze was cast on Noah. Noah could clearly feel the uncertainty in his eyes. After a while, the man in black seemed to have given up on something. He sighed, stood up, and opened his mouth. However, just as the man in black was about to say something, a surprised voice suddenly sounded. What? What's going on? Hearing this voice, Noah and the man in black were shocked at the same time. They turned their heads and looked at the source of the voice. They saw that at the side of the school gate, there was a boy in uniform carrying a school bag. After saying this in surprise, he saw the sword in the man in black's hand, which was shining with a cold light. Immediately, the boy took a step back, then turned around and ran desperately out of the school. Not good. The man in black finally spoke, but his voice was filled with anxiety. He lifted his foot, wanting to chase in the direction of the boy who was running away. However, at the same time, a fountain pen fiercely pierced towards him, causing the man in black to reflexively stop his body and dodge to the side, avoiding the fountain pen that was thrusting towards him. Then, a hand grabbed the man in black's neck, forcibly choking him, and lifted him up. Ugh! The man in black held onto Noah's hand that was choking his neck, and struggled in pain. However, Noah tightly choked the man in black's neck, and his eyes became somewhat cold. Are you trying to attack my student in front of me? The man in black kept struggling, as if he was really in pain. Hey! At this time, a voice that was not at all high and low came from behind Noah. A delicate fist rubbed against the air, and heavily smashed towards Noah's back. Feeling the strong wind coming from behind, Noah frowned, released the man in black's neck, and dodged. Chapter 580. Bam! When Noah let go of the man's neck, the man immediately fell to the ground, clutching his neck and coughing. In front of the man in black, a petite girl stood in front of the man in black, seemingly intending to protect him. She got into a fighting stance and stared at Noah. However, there was no vigilance in her expression. Instead, she was quite calm, to the extent that it made people feel that she was emotionless. Noah had seen that kind of posture, that kind of performance last night, and it made his eyebrows twitch slightly. Kitten? The newcomer was Kitten of Tower City. Looking at Kitten's posture, it was obvious that she was in cahoots with the man in black. "I'm very sorry, sensei. My servant seems to be a little rude to you, please understand." In the next second, such an elegant and sweet voice echoed from behind Kitten and the man in black, drilling into Noah's ears. Not long after, a tall and slender girl with bright red hair walked over with an awe-inspiring and elegant gait. Beside him, there was a similarly tall and slender girl with long black hair that reached her waist. Her hair was tied into a ponytail, and she let it hang freely behind her. She gave off the aura of Yamato Nadako, and compared to the former, she was not the slightest bit inferior in terms of beauty. Noah had never seen the beautiful girl with the aura of Yamato Nadashiko before, but he had heard some rumors in the past 2 days. In Full King Academy, the first and second most popular third-year girls were very close to each other. They were practically inseparable from each other on normal days. You could see these two girls together wherever you went. Just like the president and vice president of the student council, they were a rare combination of beauties. The first most popular was naturally Lias Jimenez, who had bright red hair and looked like a princess from a noble family. The second most popular was a girl with the aura of Yamato Nadashiko, who had a nearly extinct long black ponytail, Jurai Himashima. At this very moment, the most popular girl duo in Komoi Academy made their entrance valiantly, passing by Kitten and the man in black to arrive before Noah. Although he was not too surprised, Noah still frowned. "So it's you, Lias." Noah had a hunch when the man in black attacked him. It was probably someone sent by either Lias or Zaqueo to test him. That was because the man in black also had the aura of a demon. However, judging from the fact that Zaqueo did not know that he had summoned Kitten in the morning, the demons in the academy seemed to mind their own business. That was why Noah could not be sure that the man in black who attacked him had something to do with Lias or Zaqueo. Now, Noah was sure. Not only the man in black, but even Kitten had a special relationship with Lias well. On the other hand, Zaqueo's childhood sweetheart, Lias did not seem to be working with her. "Kitten reported to me that sensei seems to be quite skilled, so I asked Yuta to test him a little." "I'm really sorry." Despite apologizing, Lias's expression was still as dignified as ever as she smiled fearlessly. "Yudu, you should say hello to sensei too." Hearing Lias's words, the man in black stood up from the ground and took off his cloak, revealing his face. That was actually a very handsome man with outstanding looks. "I'm very sorry, sensei. That was rude of me." He swiftly brandished his sword and sheathed it into the scabbard at his waist. The good-looking man then bowed at Noah. "I'm Kiba Yudo, a second-year student. Nice to meet you." "Kiba Yudo?" Noah glanced at Lias, Jurai Himashima, Kitten Tashiro, and Kiba Yudo. "I'm quite lucky today to meet the most popular students of each grade." Lias and Jurai Himashima were the top 2 most popular students in Komoi Academy, and were naturally the most popular third-year students in their respective grades. Kiba Yudo was the most popular second-year student, a very polite and good-looking man. Noah had heard about him before. As for little Kitten, she was a junior of the first grade. Due to her adorable appearance, the entire Colt King Academy treated her like a mascot and doted on her. Her popularity was also at the top of the first grade. The most popular first-year, second-year, and third-year students were now gathered in front of Noah. Noah did not say that he was surprised, but he was more or less sighing. After all, the most popular people in Komoi Academy were all demons. It seemed that the Colt King Academy wasn't as simple as it seemed. "Aren't we honored as well?" Lias, who appeared to be the leader of the group, replied to Noah with a shrug. "We're quite lucky to have a face-to-face talk with the new teacher who captured the hearts of all the girls in the academy in less than 2 days." Noah's expression turned bitter, and he took a deep breath before glancing at Lias. "I've finally forgotten about that. Can you please not bring it up? Miss Lias, you had your familiar send me flyers, you had me summon Kitten Tashiro, and now you've sent Kiba Yudo to test me. Are you that interested in me? Well, I'm sure you've seen the curiosity of high school girls in the last 2 days, sir. I'm one of them, so it's normal for me to be interested in you, isn't it?" Lias put one hand on her hip and the other in front of her, as if she was a noble representative who was about to speak. Well then, let me reintroduce myself to you, sir. I am Lias Gimli, the next leader of the pure-blooded demon family, the Gimli family of the underworld. I'm a superior demon. Lias puffed out her voluptuous breasts, and her bright eyes met Noah's gaze. She was brimming with confidence and pride. As for the children beside me, they are my kin. Nice to meet you, Sensei Noah. Jurai Himejima crossed her hands in front of her and solemnly performed a Japanese salute. I am Jurai Himejima, Lias Gimli's kin. I've already introduced myself, but let me reintroduce myself. A polite smile appeared on Kiba Yudo's face. I am Kiba Yudo, Lias Gimli's kin. Me too. Kitten Tashiro lowered her head at Noah. I'm Kitten Tashiro, Lias Gimli's kin. Jurai, Yudo, and Kitten Tashiro. These children were originally humans, so you don't have to be surprised that there are so many demons in the academy, sensei. Lias pursed her lips and smiled. In this academy, the only pure-blooded demons who were born as demons are me and Kana. The others are humans who were reincarnated into demons through our hands. I see. Noah calmly sorted out the information he received. So, Jurai, Kiba, and Kitten Tashiro claim to be your kin because you were the one who reincarnated them into demons, right? All reincarnated demons in this world are the kin of pure-blooded demons. After all, they are like second parents. You can understand it that way for now, sensei. Lias' eyes flashed. Then, shouldn't you introduce yourself, sensei? Me? Noah pointed at himself and asked knowingly. What else do I need to introduce myself? I'm just a normal teacher. At that, the smile on Lias' face slowly disappeared as she sighed. Although in the demon world, a demon of my age can only be considered a minor, teacher and my dependents are all very outstanding servants. Even if Yudu's strength can't compare to a superior demon, he's still much stronger than the average inferior demon. Such a Yudu can't even make teacher take him seriously. Do you think we'll still believe that such a person is an ordinary person? Lias aside, even Jurai, Yudo, and Kitten Tashiro became serious as they stared at Noah, as if trying to figure out something from Noah. Are you saying that I'm not human? Noah casually opened his hand as his voice echoed. Unfortunately, I'm neither a demon nor an angel. I'm a real human. Chapter 581. Behind Chariot King Academy, there was a lush forest. There was a building surrounded by trees in the middle of the forest. It was the old school building of Komodo Academy. The old school building was the former school building of Chariot King Academy. It wasn't exactly abandoned, but it wasn't in use either. It gave off a rather eerie feeling. It was one of the 7 incredible events that happened in every academy, and it was spread throughout the entire academy. However, although the exterior of this wooden school building was very old, the glass of the windows was very intact. At first glance, there was no obvious damage. Although it was old, it could not be considered as a dilapidated building. Of course, the interior of the building was even more so. Not only were the corridors very clean, even the unused classrooms were spotless. The scene of cobwebs and layers of dust that one would expect to see didn't appear. This told others that this place was often cleaned. In such a school building, there was a spacious room. It was a room with mysterious words written in every corner of the room. And in the center of the room was a huge magic circle that took up most of the space. It looked rather eerie. In addition, there were only a few sofas and a luxurious desk in this room. The interior was equipped with a lot of commonly used furniture, such as a table placed in the middle of the sofa, a lamp, a chandelier, and an inner bathroom. It dispelled a lot of the strange atmosphere that permeated the air. In fact, the room was the activity area of Komodo Academy's Supernatural Research Department. Led by Lias, the Jamonli family members were all members of the department, and Lias was the department's minister. At this time, the sky was almost dark. However, there were quite a lot of people in the Supernatural Research Department's activity area. Jurai Himashima came to the sofa with a cup of hot tea and put it on the table in front of Noah, who was sitting on the sofa. "Please have some tea, sensei." "Thank you." Noah did not stand on ceremony. He picked up the cup of hot tea and took a sip. He then held the cup in his hand and looked across. There, Liaz was sitting on the sofa, facing off against Noah. Jurai Himashima returned to Liaz's side after making tea for Noah and stood behind her, closest to the sofa. Beside her, Shiba Yuto and Tashiro Kitten stood side by side. The difference in status could be seen from the scene. "All right, Liaz," Noah said uninterestedly as he sipped his tea. "You went through so much trouble to test me and invite me here. That's enough of a show. Shouldn't we get to the point?" "I didn't do that on purpose." Liaz frowned unhappily, but recovered in the next second and looked straight at Noah. "This Cult King Academy is run by the Jumanli family. It's also my territory in the human world. To be honest, with someone like Sensei suddenly barging in, we have to be on guard, right?" "According to what you're saying, aren't the students and teachers in this school trespassing into your territory?" Noah said without changing his expression. "Are you still on guard against all the students and teachers in this academy, Liaz?" "Sensei, you should know what I mean. Can you stop beating around the bush?" Liaz's beautiful brows furrowed even tighter. "You should know that I'm not on guard against the students and teachers who come to this academy to study and work, but the powerful ones who come to this academy to study and work. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't sense the presence of demons, angels, or fallen angels on you, we would have treated you as an intruder and eliminated you directly." Liaz's beautiful eyes stared straight at Noah as a faint magical aura began to emanate from her body. "But just like you said, you're just a human. My territory has never prohibited humans from entering, just like the students and teachers in this academy. That's a little difficult to deal with. That's why we hope that you can cooperate with us. At least that way, there won't be any conflict." Noah's expression remained unchanged when he heard that, but deep down, he already had a good impression of Liaz. Before the official negotiation began, Noah had learned a lot of information from Kitten and Shiba Yuto during their casual conversation. Demons were not the only ones in this world. Even the angels and fallen angels in the Bible existed. It was said that the demons and fallen angels had been fighting each other since ancient times in order to dominate the underworld, which was also what humans called hell. The underworld was roughly divided into two sides. One side was the territory of demons, and the other was the territory of fallen angels. In order to monopolize the underworld and hold the ruling rights of the entire underworld in their hands, demons and fallen angels had been fighting for territory since ancient times like two countries, but neither could do anything to the other. With the God in the Bible as their leader, the angels in the heavenly realm also regarded demons and fallen angels as targets that must be eradicated. As a result, the three factions demons, angels, and fallen angels formed a tripartite balance and continued to fight, even until now. Compared to the so-called demons, angels, and fallen angels, the powerless humans were undoubtedly too weak. That was why Liaz could allow humans to study and work in her territory as they wished. However, if other demons, angels, or fallen angels were to barge in, it would be considered as trespassing unless they had Liaz's permission. At that time, Liaz would do her best to expel the enemy, or even eliminate them completely. Noah was a human, which was just within Liaz's tolerance range. However, Noah possessed powerful abilities that ordinary humans could not possess. That was why Liaz had to be careful, and that was nothing out of the ordinary. However, Noah was still a human in the end. No matter how powerful he was, Liaz could completely mobilize the demon's forces to encircle and annihilate Noah. She did not need to be wary of major factions like angels and fallen angels, so why was there a need to say so much? Now, Liaz took the initiative to say that she did not want to have a conflict. That proved that Liaz's nature was not bad, and she did not look down on humans as a superior pure-blooded demon. Instead, she chose to talk to Noah as an equal. At this time, if Noah still did not give her face, he would not be able to get through it. But as you said, I'm just a human. Even if I have power, I only represent myself. Humans don't even know about the existence of demons, let alone forming a faction to fight against demons, right? Noah said straightforwardly. Or do you think that I'm an enemy sent by the angels or fallen angels, Miss Leas? No, be it angels or fallen angels, humans under their control have the right to exercise the power of light, and there is no aura of light on you. Leah stroked her chin and muttered. There is no power bestowed by demons, angels, or fallen angels. Although it does not prove that you are not related to any of them, at least we know that you have power as a pure human, so there are a lot of things to consider. No matter what the considerations are, Miss Leas, I understand that you have your own concerns. But I'm only here to be a teacher, and I don't have as complicated considerations as you. Noah sighed. So, as you said, in order to avoid conflict, as long as you give me a non-exclusive explanation, it's not impossible for me to cooperate with you. That's easy. Leah's expression relaxed, and a beautiful smile reappeared on her face. First of all, I hope you can allow me to investigate your identity. Hearing this, Noah was a little surprised. Did you not investigate my identity when you were interested in me before? At that time, I had already decided to get in touch with you first, so I didn't do anything rude. Now that I think about it, it's great that I didn't do that. Leah smiled. It's fine now, right? All right. Noah spread his hands helplessly. Although Noah's identity could not be said to be flawless, he did not come into contact with any demons, angels, or fallen angels. Since he did not do it, she could not investigate. That was the main thing Leah's was worried about, and there was no harm in letting her investigate. However, Leah's next sentence really stunned Noah. Then, we hope to send someone here to live with you temporarily, Leah said seriously. Right, how about Kitten? Huh? Noah was stunned. Chapter 582. The sky soon turned dark. Noah, who had just walked out of Colt King Academy, turned around and glanced at the academy that was gradually darkening under the night sky. Then, he turned his gaze to his side and sighed helplessly. Why did things turn out this way? It's Minister Lyatha's order. Kitten, who was carrying a backpack like a primary school student, walked slowly beside Noah and looked straight ahead. Her monotonous voice was unsure if she was answering Noah's question or muttering to herself. Since it's an order, I have to obey. That being said, there was no way the kitten did not know why Leah wanted her to live with Noah. Since she did not know if Noah was really related to demons, angels, or fallen angels, it was necessary for Lyath to be cautious. Putting Kitten beside Noah, to put it nicely, was to have her kin witness that Noah did not intend to do anything strange. To put it bluntly, it was actually surveillance. If Noah had not shown the ability to easily defeat Kiba Yudo, Lyath would not have treated him so cautiously. However, Noah just so happened to possess this level of strength. As the secret controller of Colt King Academy and the next leader of a pure-blooded demon family, Lyath naturally had to pay attention to the uncertain factor that was Noah so that the angels and the fallen angels would not take advantage of her. After all, she was the next leader of a demon noble, and being cautious was necessary. Noah understood Leah's concerns, and he also understood why Leah sent the kitten to his side. She was probably afraid that Noah would be disgusted by such blatant surveillance, so she chose Kitten, who was in contact with Noah and was somewhat familiar with him, to take on the responsibility. It was exactly the same as when Erica and Liliana came to Noah's side as his followers, was it not? The difference was that Erica and Liliana came to Noah because they were afraid that Noah would mess up Italy, while Kitten came to Noah because she was afraid that Noah would harm Leah. Both of them were not for themselves, but for others. Then, even if Noah wanted to make trouble, he couldn't make trouble for these people who came to his side. Teacher, I hope you don't blame Minister Lyas. The kitten seemed to have sensed Noah's inner thoughts. She raised her head and stared at Noah with her big watery eyes. Her heart was shaking like waves. Minister Lyas is the next head of the House of Gimli. There are many things to consider, and many things are not voluntary. Please believe me, the minister is a very good person. Being stared at by the kitten with such pitiful eyes, Noah almost couldn't help but relax. However, what the kitten said was true. Although Noah suppressed Kiba Yudo was just a low-level demon. For the higher-level demons of the underworld, suppressing a low-level demon was nothing at all. In other words, Laius only felt that Noah had a certain level of strength, but did not know what Noah's true strength was. Under such circumstances, who would think that a human could resist a demon family? So, if it were another demon, they would probably use their own power to eliminate Noah, the unknown factor, right? But she did not do that. Instead, she went to great lengths to avoid conflict using all kinds of means. It was not an exaggeration to say that she was a good person. It was also because of this that Noah could not make trouble for her. If the other party was a rude devil who wanted to attack him without a care in the world, Noah would definitely kill the other party without leaving a single piece of armor behind. If the other party was a person who did one thing on the surface and another in secret and had some kind of scheme against Noah, Noah would let them have a taste of their own medicine. But Laius did so much without any malicious intent. She just wanted to avoid conflict with Noah as much as possible and settle things amicably. If that was the case, what reason would Noah have to make trouble for her? What Noah did not know was that it was the same for Laius. If Noah came to Komodo Academy with ulterior motives, Laius would definitely wipe him out without mercy. If Noah came to Komodo Academy specifically to deal with Laius, she would not hesitate to attack him as well. The problem was that Noah was only a teacher in the academy, and the students were saying that the teacher was very gentle and considerate. He even went easy on Kiba Yudo, and even stopped Kiba Yudo because he thought that Kiba Yudo was going to attack a witness who appeared out of nowhere. That meant that Laius had no reason to attack him directly. In other words, be it Noah or Laius, they were the type who would only act decisively against those with ill intentions. However, Noah and Laius would show equal kindness to others when they were being kind. From that point of view, Noah and Laius were the same type of people. I'm not blaming your minister. Noah scratched his cheek as the kitten stared at him. I'm just thinking that your minister is letting a cute girl like you live under the same roof with a guy like me. Aren't you afraid that I'll do something to you? Hearing this, the kitten's big watery eyes, which were staring at Noah, narrowed. Don't have any unhealthy thoughts. If I really had any unhealthy thoughts, I wouldn't have said it. Noah's mouth twitched. Must you interpret my words that way? Don't worry. The kitten looked forward again and threw out this sentence without turning its head. I'm very strong. In other words, if Noah did have any unhealthy thoughts, I'll beat you up. The kitten said it out loud. Is that so? The kitten's words triggered the strong part of Noah's heart, and Noah glanced at the kitten. Even if you want to beat me up, it's still a question whether you're a match for me. The kitten turned around and looked at Noah with eyes full of rebuttal, as if she did not believe him. Noah could not help but remind her. Look, that Kiba Yudo is not a match for me either. Yoda-senpai did not show his true strength. The kitten could not help but retort. If Yoda-senpai shows his true strength, he will definitely not lose to you. Even so, kitten, are you confident that you can beat me? Noah said with a smile, which made the kitten's eyes show a trace of annoyance. I'm confident that you can't resist. Do you want to try? The kitten suddenly looked at Noah for a while, then sped up, past Noah, and walked in the direction of Noah's apartment, leaving only such a sentence. I will definitely beat up that teacher who has such unhealthy and dirty thoughts. Listening to the kitten's unyielding words, looking at the kitten's petite back that gradually disappeared, Noah pointed to his forehead with his finger, but the corners of his mouth slowly raised. Very well, then I'll play with you, kitten. After that, Noah's mood seemed to have become a lot happier, and he also quickened his pace, walking in the direction of his apartment. As a man, Noah was also the kind of person who did not often cook. When he was young, he almost ordered whatever he wanted to eat in the guild. When he grew up, he had a typical wife and mother like Mira, so Noah was not reduced to the point where he needed to cook. In the world of the Black Bullet, Noah was the shelter of the cursed child. Occasionally, he would cook by himself, but more often than not, he would just eat the ready-made food, such as ordering takeout. In the world of absolute dual blades, Haolang Academy provided food and accommodation for free, so naturally, Noah did not need to cook by himself. In the world of The Night of the Sorcerer, because of the uniqueness of Qing Zi and Yuzhu, Noah did cook, but he only lived for about a month, so the number of times he cooked was limited. As for the world of The God Slayer, it was needless to say, Liliana prepared everything, so why would Noah, the king, need to find food by himself? Therefore, Noah's cooking was not good, but not bad, and could be considered to be average. Even so, the kitten still finished the meal with relish and obediently clasped her hands together to express her gratitude. "Thank you for your hospitality. It's just a simple meal." Noah nonchalantly cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks. "I'll take care of here, kitten, you go take a shower first." As soon as he said this, the kitten immediately reacted. Chapter 583. Noah, who was cleaning up the bowls and chopsticks on the table, suddenly sensed a sharp gaze pressuring him. It stared intently at his body, causing him to be slightly startled. He turned his head and met that sharp gaze. Immediately, the scene of kitten staring at Noah with an expressionless and vigilant gaze was imprinted in Noah's eyes. Suddenly, Noah frowned and looked at his own body. "Is there anything strange about my body?" Seeing Noah frowning and looking at himself with a puzzled expression, Kitten's brows were also tightly knitted together. Her gaze was still fixed on Noah, as if trying to see through his disguise. "Teacher, are you planning to do something?" Hearing this, Noah almost slipped and fell. "Why would you come to such a conclusion?" "Because didn't you say before that you want me to be irresistible?" Kitten only filtered the above sentence in her heart, but she did not really say it out loud. Looking at Noah's twitching mouth as if he couldn't stand it, the vigilance in little Kitten's eyes slowly faded after she didn't notice anything unusual. "It seems that I was too vigilant. Maybe the teacher was just joking." With that thought, Kitten stood up and politely bowed her head to Noah. "Then I'll go wash up first." With that, Kitten turned around and stayed in the same place for a while. She turned her head and said with half-closed eyes, "If the teacher comes to peep, I'll hate you to death." Noah rolled his eyes and did not bother to explain. He just kept the tableware and walked towards the kitchen. The kitten nodded in satisfaction and walked towards the bathroom. As for the change of clothes, Liath had just sent it over with a magic circle. It seemed that Liath really intended to let Kitten stay in Noah's house for the time being. She was not worried at all that Noah would do to Kitten. That was also because she trusted the kitten's ability and did not understand Noah's ability. After all, just as Kitten said, in the battle with Noah, Shiba Yudo did not show his true strength at all. No matter what, Kiba Yudo was a reincarnated demon. How could he only have extraordinary swordsmanship and extraordinary speed? Noah estimated that Kiba Yudo should still have some abilities that he had yet to use. He did not even use his demon magic power. He probably had not even used half of his strength, right? Noah, on the other hand, had only displayed his outstanding close combat ability from the beginning to the end. His use of enhanced magic was not discovered. Even if Noah had melee combat ability that could crush Shiba Yudo, the demons like Leah's thought that he could not be that strong since he did not have any special abilities. Therefore, he was relieved to let Kitten monitor Noah. Little did he know that this conjecture was truly wrong. Noah, who had put away the tableware in the kitchen, glanced at Kitten who walked into the bathroom with an amused expression on his face. "Even if you're a demon, you're still too young." As soon as he said that, Kitten's exclamation came from the bathroom. "How? How could it be?" Hearing the exclamation, Noah shrugged. After putting down the tableware, he walked toward the bathroom and opened the door. As soon as he opened the door, a gaze full of anger and annoyance was cast on Noah. Naturally, it was Kitten's gaze. At this moment, the little demon who had threatened to send Noah flying had several bandages hanging from the ceiling tightly wrapped around her limbs. She was hanging in the air with her arms and legs spread out. She struggled with her petite body while gritting her teeth and glaring at Noah with murderous eyes. "Woo! I was careless, it's just a trap that couldn't be any simpler." "You actually fell for it just like that," Kitten-chan. All the plans I prepared to make you submit were all for nothing, Noah teased Kitten with a grin. How is it? Didn't I say it would make you unable to resist? Woo! Kitten's eyes became sharper, and her slender and short limbs began to tighten. There was a trace of magic flowing in them. This kind of thing, I'll tear it off immediately. With such a sentence, Kitten tightened her limbs that were filled with magic, causing the bandages to make an unbearable sound. It was just some fragile bandages. If Kitten really wanted to break free, it was absolutely not difficult, not to mention that Kitten was a demon with monstrous strength. Of course, the prerequisite was that those bandages were ordinary bandages. Wang. Just as the kitten began to struggle seriously, the bandages that were tightly wrapped around the kitten's limbs trembled all over. Magic patterns that looked like electric wires appeared on the surface of the bandages. Under the strengthening of enhanced magic, the most ordinary of bandages suddenly became the strongest of restraints. Even if Kitten's monstrous strength tore them into a critical state where it would not be surprising if they were to break at any time, there was still not a single crack appearing. Seeing this scene, Kitten's pretty face that originally did not have a trace of emotion finally showed a trace of surprise. Magic? In the next moment, the surprise on Kitten's face turned into a solemn one, and the gaze that stared at Noah also carried a trace of malice. You're not an ordinary human, you're a mage. Hearing this, Noah spread his hands, as if he had already expected Kitten's reaction. When they were in the supernatural research department, Noah told Liesi that humans did not have any forces that could compete with demons, angels, or fallen angels. He intended to use this to convince Liesi. However, after that, Liesi also explained to Noah that this statement was actually a bit off. Among humans, there were also some individuals who were not ordinary and had the power to compete with demons, angels, and fallen angels. One of them was mages. In this world, magic power seemed to be a power exclusive to demons. Humans could not have it. Rather than calling it magic power, it was more appropriate to call it demonic power. Demons all had the privilege of using magic power. By imagining magic power, they could make it have various effects. Sometimes it was to turn magic power into fire. Sometimes it was to turn magic power into lightning. Or it could be used after transforming magic power into healing, hypnosis, defense, and other properties. In that case, demons could use magic power to make magic power have various effects. And humans also had similar powers. That was magic. The so-called magic was actually the power of analyzing demons' magic power into tactics that humans could use, allowing humans to exercise similar abilities to demons. Magic power and magic were similar yet different things. Magic power was the power that demons relied on to trigger supernatural phenomena. Demons would transform their imagination into complex and powerful magic power, and then give the magic power various properties, such as fire, water, ice, thunder, healing, hypnosis, defense, and so on, so that they could exert the same effects as their properties. Magic, on the other hand, relied on the steps of using rituals and tactics to trigger supernatural phenomena. Unlike demons who could directly transform magic power into power with various effects, magic required the activation of magic arrays and the use of rituals or tactics to perform calculations before the corresponding effects and abilities could be exerted. Using the formula of arithmetic to make it clear, magic power was the direct result of 2, and magic was the power that had to go through the calculation of 1 plus 1 to obtain the result of 2. Originally, the origin of magic was to allow people other than demons to use their own tactics and rituals to use magic power similar to demons. However, now that all kinds of magic had appeared, some magic could even do things that demonic power, that is, magic power, could not do. Of course, correspondingly, there were also magic powers that magic could not replace. For example, the characteristics and abilities of pure-blooded superior demon families were passed down from generation to generation. That was a special power that only the family could use. Magic could not simulate it. Therefore, magic and magic power were similar yet different powers. In Noah's current situation, in this world, the magic power in his body could no longer be called magic power. It was an existence like magic power or mana. With such power, Noah could no longer be considered an ordinary human. Noah deceived Liath. Chapter 584. Noah had lied to Leah. Noah could read the message from the cat's sinister gaze. In this regard, Noah just said indifferently, "What? Are mages not considered humans?" The kitten couldn't help but be speechless, unable to say anything to refute. Humans naturally could not become less human just because they could use demonic magic. However, mages could not be normal humans either. To demons, humans were extremely weak and powerless individuals. But among mages, there were some who stood out and could even rival superior demons. Those were not humans that demons could treat as weak and powerless individuals. Therefore, from the perspective of demons, humans and human mages were two completely different concepts. If Leah had known that Noah was a mage, she probably would not have simply sent the cat to Noah's residence, who was likely to be an enemy. At that moment, the cat clenched her teeth in regret. "Undoubtedly, Minister Leah has chosen to trust you. Is there a problem with your chief Lias choosing to trust me?" Noah reminded him with a strange expression. "I didn't say that I could use magic or anything like that, but I'm not lying either. I'm just a normal teacher at Full King Academy. You don't mean that I have to hurt your minister just because I'm a mage, do you?" Noah reached out and patted the cat's smooth, pretty face. "Or rather, if I really wanted to harm your minister, I wouldn't have used magic in front of you so easily. Instead, I would have hidden it and only used it when I could deliver a fatal blow to Miss Leah. That would have been the end of it." Hearing this, the kitten fell silent. After a while, the kitten said this with an uncertain tone. "You really don't want to harm Minister Leah? All right. If you find it hard to believe, I'll be frank with you." Noah sighed helplessly and looked up, a glint flashing in his dark, deep eyes. "Leah Jaimanri is no match for me. If I wanted to harm her, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Do you understand?" The cat wanted to refute when she heard that. However, from Noah's extremely calm smile, the kitten keenly felt a chill run from the soles of its feet to its back, then from its back to the top of its head, causing the kitten's scalp to feel numb. Instinct told the cat. That was 100% accurate. If this man really wanted to harm Leah, then Leah Jaimanri would vanish from this world in no time at all. However, in the next moment, the calm smile on Noah's face was replaced by a sinister smile. The chill and disbelief that made the cat's scalp tingle disappeared without a trace. "I just want to prove that I can really make you unable to resist." Noah continued to pat the cat's face with a smile. "If you admit your teacher's ability now, I'll put you down. How about it?" Noah's teasing words made the cat's uncertain mood turn into anger. The cat took a deep breath, clenched her teeth, and tightened her limbs. The bandages wrapped around the cat's short limbs immediately tightened again, making a sound as if they could not bear the burden. However, with the help of enhanced magic, no matter how hard the cat tried, she still could not tear the bandages apart. Seeing this, Noah felt bored. "Kitten, I didn't expect you to have such a competitive and unyielding nature when you look so cold. You really are like a wild cat." The cat glared at Noah and continued to struggle, silently expressing her resistance. "Speaking of which, kitten seems to hate things about sex, right?" Noah's eyes turned, and for some reason, an expression that made the cat a little timid appeared on his face. "Tell me, what should I do for a cute girl who can't resist at all in front of me?" As he said that, Noah gently put a hand on the cat's exposed thigh. At the same time, an indescribable feeling came from his hand, and at the same time, the cat felt her whole body tremble. Then, Noah's hand slowly moved up her smooth thigh, making Kitten's heart skip a beat. She clenched her teeth tightly, and even her voice trembled a little. "You worker teacher, you've been treating me as a worker teacher from the beginning, haven't you?" Noah responded with a bright smile that did not contain the slightest bit of malice. "Since you've already treated me as a worker teacher, why don't you take advantage of this opportunity to do some worker work?" While speaking, Noah's hand had already slid down the cat's slender thigh to the corner of the cat's skirt. If it went any further, it would really reach the cat's skirt. The cat glared at Noah in anger. Even the usually emotionless face had a hint of anger, but more than that, her face was flushed with embarrassment. But even so, the cat did not intend to admit defeat. That was not only because of Noah's bad behavior, but also because of the cat's inner feelings. The cat was telling Noah. No matter what Noah planned to do, the cat in Pagoda City would not compromise. Including if Noah really intended to attack Leah. Obviously, Kitten still didn't choose to believe Noah's words 100%. As expected, you're a wild cat that's hard to tame. To think that Lias could take you in as her kin, and keep you so loyal. The mischievous smile on Noah's face completely disappeared. He rolled his eyes and withdrew his hand that was stroking the kitten's thigh. All right. Consider it my loss. It was just a joke. You actually took it so seriously. I'm convinced. With that, Noah turned around and walked out of the bathroom. Paw. Almost at the same time when Noah turned around and walked out of the bathroom, the enhanced magic lines on the bandages disappeared. With a crisp cracking sound, Kitten neatly tore them apart. The kitten landed on the ground again. First, she glanced at the door of the bathroom. Then, she looked at the torn bandages hanging on her body and fell silent. After a long time, a murmur echoed in the bathroom. What a strange teacher. Time slowly passed by. Not long after, the lights in every room in the apartment were turned off one by one. The light in Noah's room also dimmed at some point. In the dim room, Noah was sleeping on the bed on the ground. His hands were on the pillow, and his head was on his hands. He looked at the ceiling and suddenly spoke. Are you asleep? Noah did not get a response. However, the bed that originally belonged to Noah wriggled a little and told Noah the answer. This made Noah more or less helpless. Are you still angry? Noah still did not get any response to this question. After a while, a muffled response came from the bed that just wriggled a little. Worker teachers are the most annoying. Okay. Whatever you say, Noah said perfunctorily. Then, his eyes flashed as he asked a question. Hey, kitten, why did you reincarnate as a demon? This sentence was exchanged for an indescribable silence. Although Noah knew that his overly abrupt question might not get any response, he did not expect that it would make the atmosphere so heavy. Just when Noah was about to change the topic, the emotionless voice of the kitten came from the bed again. Because, without the minister, this world no longer has me. After leaving this sentence, the kitten stopped talking. Sensing that the kitten doesn't want to talk, Noah smiled bitterly. For demons, angels, and fallen angels, ordinary humans were indeed quite fragile and powerless. Therefore, if there were humans who knew their powerlessness, they would probably choose to reincarnate as a demon without hesitation in order to get power. But sure enough, there were people who could not casually abandon their original identity. There must be a story about the kitten, right? Chapter 585. The next day, Noah left the apartment with Kitten and walked into Kamigami Academy. Noah and Kitten walked side by side on the crowded Academy Avenue. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that they went to school together. Suddenly, there was a lot of noise around them. Is that the very popular new healthcare teacher? The one next to her looks like Kitten from Tashiro. Why would Noah-sensei go to school with Kita-chan? Could it be that Kita-chan also has her eyes on Noah-sensei? Nonsense. Undoubtedly, Noah-sensei has his eyes on our kitten. That teacher must be a lullicon. That's why I say boys are a bunch of idiots. How could Noah-sensei be a lullicon? That's right. Noah felt a wave of helplessness in his heart amidst the increasing noise. Why do normal high school students like to gossip so much? On the other hand, Kitten seemed to be used to this phenomenon. She carried her backpack and walked expressionlessly on the way to the school dormitory, causing many boys around her to gasp violently. The girls who saw the disgusting appearance of those boys all avoided them with a look of disgust. Not long after, the school dormitory door appeared in front of Noah and Kitten. As soon as they entered the school dormitory, Noah and Kitten would silently go their separate ways. They would meet up after school and go back to the apartment together. However, before that, Noah inadvertently caught a glimpse of 3 boys beside the school dormitory door. They were having a conversation that he couldn't ignore. "It's true. I'm telling the truth." Matsuda, Motohashi. A boy who wore his uniform like a jacket and didn't button it up was yelling at a boy with a crew cut and a boy with glasses in front of him. "I really saw it. Yesterday evening, there were 2 people fighting at the school gate. One of them was wearing a black cloak and had a sword in his hand. It was definitely a sword. I can't be wrong." His words made Noah, who was about to step into the school, halt his footsteps. Not to mention Noah, even the expressionless Kitten's eyes moved. She stopped in her tracks, stretched out her hand, and tugged at the corner of Noah's clothes. Noah nodded silently, confirming Kitten's guess. Yesterday, when Shiba Yuto was testing Noah, Leah's, Jurai Himashima, Kitten, and the others were nearby, and saw the whole thing unfold like the back of their hand. Naturally, everyone, including Kitten, knew that a student witnessed the battle between Noah and Kiba Yuto. Since they needed to save Yuto from Noah, Leah's, Junai, Kitten, and the others did not have time to chase after him. But that didn't mean that Leah's and the others didn't care about it. After all, if something went wrong, not only would the existence of demons be exposed to the general public, but even if the existence of demons was not exposed, it would cause quite a commotion. That was why Leah's had seriously said yesterday that they must find the witness. As for what to do after that, she did not say. Still, Leah's would never kill the witness just to hide something. When Kiba Yuto found the witness, he seemed to only want to capture him and not hurt him, which Noah had misunderstood Kiba Yuto. This matter should have been left to Leah's to handle. But since they met, it was better to at least stop that guy from spreading nonsense around. Under Noah and the Kitten's watchful eyes, the conversation continued. "But you said that someone was fighting with a sword. That's a little unbelievable." The crew-cut boy called Matsuda seemed troubled. "Who would wield such a weapon now? Even if they did, it should be a dagger or a kitchen knife, right? And Icheng, the sword you're talking about is the kind of sword you see on TV. Instead of saying that it's used for fighting, it's more like a sword used for acting, right?" The bespectacled man called Yuanbin also pushed up his glasses and spread his hands helplessly. "Could it be that you're mistaken? Damn it, you just don't believe me." The witness called Icheng pointed at Matsuda and Yuanbin and yelled. "Aren't we the Gentleman's Alliance trio? How dare you doubt me? No, no, no. Even if you say so, you're talking about a duel, not a field battle. We're not interested in talking about it." Matsuda's expression was infuriating as he smirked like a thief. If it's a duel between a magical girl and a tentacle monster, then it's a different story. Hearing this, whether it was Icheng who claimed to be the witness or Yuanbin, both of them showed a drooling expression as if they were imagining something that had to be censored before it could be broadcasted. This caused the kitten to lower its eyelids and spit out such a sentence. "Despicable and filthy forefathers. You're really strict, Kita-chan." However, Noah more or less wanted to laugh dryly. There's nothing wrong with a male forefather, but if it's a forefather, then it's fine to go back home. If it's a forefather outside, then it's too shameful. However, the 3 of them didn't seem to have any self-awareness at all. They suddenly gave up on the topic just now and started to discuss on the street about their hobby. This caused the surrounding girls to avoid them in disgust. Their eyes also became very disdainful, as if they weren't looking at people, but trash. In the end, even Kitten couldn't bear it anymore and pulled Noah's clothes. "Sensei, please quickly get rid of that forefather. Let's say for the time being, Kitten, we want to keep him alive. Don't decide to erase people because of personal feelings, although it's indeed a bit unsightly." Noah smiled, then took a deep breath and walked over. Icheng, who was talking about forefathers with Matsuda and Yuanbin, suddenly felt a hand on his shoulder. "Hey, classmate, can I disturb you a little?" before he could finish his sentence, Noah and Icheng's expression changed at the same time. Icheng directly screamed, fiercely broke free from Noah's hand, and jumped away. On the side, Matsuda and Yuanbin also screamed. Huh? You? Aren't you that very popular new and annoying teacher? The two people's words were ignored by Noah and Icheng. At this time, Icheng was looking at Noah with a strange expression. His face was full of strange expression, as if he was surprised why he suddenly jumped away. His eyes were full of doubts. And Noah still maintained the posture of reaching out his hand and holding Icheng's shoulder, letting his hand hang in the air, but his eyebrows were deeply wrinkled. Just now, when Noah held Icheng's shoulder, the outline of the stone plate connected to the 10 patterns in his heart, the pattern representing the incarnation of the Dragon Man, trembled for no reason. No, it couldn't be said that there was no reason. Obviously, the reason why the Dragon Man had such a reaction should be related to the student called Icheng. What was going on? Noah suppressed the surprise in his heart, and pretended to be curious as he asked Icheng. Why did you suddenly jump away? No. That. Icheng didn't seem to understand what was going on. He scratched his head and had a silly smile on his face. I also don't know why, but just now I suddenly felt a very scary thing approaching, so unknowingly. The meaning behind his words was probably that Noah was that scary thing, right? In other words, when Noah felt that the Dragon Man incarnation had some reaction, the student called Icheng also seemed to feel something. Noah, who had such a thought flashed in his heart, smiled slightly and said, Actually, I'm just here to pass on a message. Pass on a message? Icheng was startled. Do you see the child at the school dormitory door? Noah pointed at the direction of the kitten with his mouth. There's a cute girl there, saying that she has something to say to you after school, but she's too embarrassed to ask you out, so she asked me to pass on the message. Cute girl. Icheng's ears suddenly perked up, and he looked in the direction of the school dormitory, and was immediately stunned. Isn't that the first grade Taching kitten? That super cute mascot? Matsuda and Motabin let out tragic screams. Kitten, asked me out? Icheng was really shocked. Yes. Noah smiled indifferently. Don't let the girl wait for too long. After saying that, Noah left, leaving behind Icheng, Matsuda, and Motabin, the three of them making awkward sounds, the corner of his mouth raised. Let me see what's so special about you. Chapter 586. Bam! Grr! A muffled sound followed by an agonizing cry echoed in the old school. A figure was sent flying into the air before crashing to the ground. His head tilted to the side, revealing a face with a small fist imprint on it. Blood was still gushing out of his nose. It was the witness from yesterday, the one who was invited to the old school by Noah, Hyudo Issei. Not far in front of Hyudo Issei was Kitten, who was still in the pose of throwing a punch. She told everyone how the imprint on Hyudo Issei's face came about. Noah, who saw Kitten send Hyudo Issei flying with a single punch, covered his face and pretended that he could not bear to watch. It took me a lot of effort to invite him here, and Lisi is also on her way here. We haven't even discussed how to deal with him yet, and you just threw a punch at him. What kind of reaction do you expect me to have? Hearing this, the kitten turned her head and stared at Noah. Her big, watery eyes were full of blame. What did you say to him when you asked him to come this morning? Well. Noah finally remembered the excuse he gave Hyudo Issei this morning. He turned his head away to avoid Kitten's piercing gaze. Why do you ask? Kitten stared at Noah speechlessly for a while before answering. If Sensei didn't say anything, why would this Sensei approach me with that perverted look on his face? Just because he came up to you with that perverted look on his face, you sent him flying with a punch? Noah's eyes started to twitch. Do you have to be so violent? Kitten-chan. Humph. Kitten snorted and turned her head away. I don't care if he's Sensei or Sensei of H, he's a nuisance, yes. Noah shrugged helplessly. Hyuta Issei was lying on the ground like a boss in a game. He extended his trembling hand at Noah and spoke weakly. Why? Probably because he overheard the conversation between Noah and Kitten, Itachi realized that what Noah said this morning was a lie. Undoubtedly, I've been looking forward to this day. I thought that Kita-chan was going to confess to me. She even changed her underwear. Noah immediately took a step back, as if something dirty was about to stick to his body. He subconsciously avoided it. Expecting a cute girl to confess to him? Noah wasn't surprised that Issei would have such thoughts. It was because he wanted to make Issei think that way that Noah purposely made it sound so ambiguous. But why did she change her underwear? This guy definitely wasn't just looking forward to a confession. It was Noah's first time seeing a guy who could fantasize to such an extent. He had to hand it to him. At that moment, the door of the old schoolhouse opened, and Lias, who was leading Jurai Himashima and Yudo Shiba, walked out. She stroked her long red hair that fluttered in the wind as she walked, a seductive smile on her face. Allah, is everyone here? On the other hand, Kiba Yudo and Himashima Jurna bowed politely to Noah. Sensei. Noah nodded to Kimishima Jurai and Kiba Yudo, then crossed his arms and gestured to Hyodo Kazunari. He's over there. I hope you can come up with a suitable solution. Liesi's expression turned serious, but when she saw Issei crying on the ground, a look of surprise appeared on her pretty face. It's him? Everyone was stunned when they heard Liesi's words. Noah turned around and looked at Liesi in confusion. You know him? Well, sort of. I didn't expect this kid to witness your fight with Yuto. Liesi smiled bitterly and walked toward Issei. She stopped in front of Issei and smiled. You, raise your head. Just when Issei was about to raise his head, a foot suddenly came down from the sky and stepped on the back of his head, crushing his face down. Issei was about to raise his head when a foot came down from the sky and stepped on the back of Issei's head. Issei was about to raise his head, but he was about to raise his head when a foot came down from the sky. Ugh. What are you doing? Seeing that Hyuta Issei's head was still on the ground and his limbs were still flailing around, Lias glared at the culprit with a displeased look on her face. Kitten, what are you doing? Be careful, Minister. Kitten stomped hard on the back of Issei's head, not letting him raise his head no matter how hard he struggled. This person is very skilled. He'll see under your skirt, Minister. Is that so? Liesi pondered for a moment and stepped away helplessly. All right. Thank you, Kitty-chan. You're welcome. Kitten said expressionlessly. She waited until Liesi stepped away before retracting her foot and walking to the side. Issei, who was still struggling on the ground, lifted his head as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. His eyes widened when he saw the valiant Liesi. She was the most popular third-year student in Komodo Academy. She was like a celebrity Liesi Gimli. For Issei, whose head was filled with fantasies, the appearance of such an idol-like figure had probably messed him up completely. You're Senior Liesi? Hi, Issei. I've been paying attention to you for a long time. Liesi smiled as Issei looked at Issei's blank expression. I knew I'd have to tell you this sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to be now. Still, this is a good time, so I'll make it clear to you. With those words, Lias made a declaration. Issei Gimli, I hope you'll remember that I, Liesi Gimli, am a demon. Demon. Issei stared at Liesi blankly. He was completely at a loss. Noah, who was quietly watching the scene, turned his gaze to Issei, who was still lying on the ground, and narrowed his eyes. What's so special about you? Let me see. Inside the paranormal research department of the old school building, a large cross-shaped bandage was plastered on Hyodo Ishigaru's face. He sat on the sofa, looking around nervously. He seemed to be terrified by the mysterious words and magic circles in the room. Noah, who was leaning against the wall, had been observing Issei. He finally spoke when he saw Liesi sitting in front of the luxurious desk. Liesi, you seem to be quite familiar with Issei. You even revealed your identity. Can you explain it to me? As Noah spoke, everyone in the room, including Issei, turned their attention to Liesi. Apart from Jurai Himashima, everyone else seemed to have the same doubts. Didn't I just say it? I've been paying attention to Issei for a long time. Liesi glanced at Issei, who was still in a daze. Because he's the wielder of a sacred gear. The owner of the sacred gear? Kiba Yuto and Kitten looked at Hyoto Kazunari in surprise. The owner of the sacred gear? Hiruto Kazunari asked with a blank expression on his face. Noah was a little surprised. After hesitating for a while, he spoke with uncertainty. I remember you said yesterday that in this world, there's another type of person who possesses power beyond that of a normal human being. That's the wielder of a sacred gear, right? That's right. Liesi nodded. The so-called sacred gear refers to an extraordinary power that was created by the God of the Bible and possessed by a specific human being. Liesi stood up and walked to the desk. She leaned on the edge and looked at Issei, who was still in a daze. She let out a meaningful laugh. There's such a power in this child's body. That's why Kana and I have been paying attention to him for a long time. Noah lowered his head as a thoughtful look appeared on his face. Chapter 587. Noah learned from Riaz that there were basically 3 types of humans in this world who possessed power that could rival demons, angels, and fallen angels. The first type were magicians and mages who could use magic. The second type were those who possessed sacred gear, a power that was beyond the norm created by the God of the Bible. The third type were exorcists who joined the side of angels or fallen angels and were thus granted the power of light, working for the angels or fallen angels. Just like how Riaz noticed Noah when he entered Kamigami Academy, there was no way she would not notice a person who possessed a sacred gear. However, unlike Noah who had a clear understanding of the level of power he possessed and how to use it, Issei Hyuga clearly did not know that he possessed a sacred gear. That was why Issei Hyuga, who was being stared at like prey by Noah and Riaz, could only smile awkwardly and raise his hand meekly. Sensei and senpai? Can you explain it in a way that I can understand? What demon and the owner of the sacred gear? I don't understand at all, do I? It's normal for you to feel this way because the sacred gear in your body hasn't awakened yet. Even if you have that kind of power, you're still a normal person before it's awakened. You shouldn't feel much of it, Leah said as she crossed her arms. Originally, I didn't intend to tell you so much. After all, you're still under my observation. I haven't confirmed what kind of sacred gear is in your body, and I don't know how to deal with you. So, you can just pretend that there's a very dangerous thing in your body, and I have my eyes on you because you have that thing. Well, that's easy to understand. Issei Hyuga was a little speechless as if he did not know what to say. That was the only thing he could squeeze out after some hesitation. But why should I let you do whatever you want to me, senpai? As soon as this sentence came out, Issei found that including Noah, Jurai, Kitten, Kimura Yuto, and the others were looking at him like he was an idiot. This made him involuntarily swallow a mouthful of saliva, and he felt a little uneasy in his heart. What? Did I say something wrong? Noah was the one who answered Issei Hyuga's question. Issei Hyuga, I know you haven't recovered from your normal state of mind, and it's not surprising that you would have such thoughts. But I have to tell you that once you step into a world where normal people shouldn't enter, you must first have power before you can talk about human rights. Noah told him the most realistic truth. It's a pity. Although you have the power that gives you that right in your body, you can't use it at all. Therefore, to demons, you're just an ordinary human. Are you sure you want to talk about human rights with demons as an ordinary human? Senpai, don't make it sound like we're evil. Even if we're demons, I don't want to make things difficult for normal people who don't know anything, and I don't want to involve normal people in this. Lias sighed and looked at Issei Hyuga. However, even if I don't have such thoughts, it doesn't mean that others don't. Let's not talk about demons for now. Angels won't come out of the heavens rashly, but there are still some fallen angels active in this city, and they will also have their eyes on the holder of the sacred gear. Seeing that Issei Hyuga was still in a daze, Laius smirked and said something extremely dangerous. In other words, a group of terrorists may also have their eyes on the thing in your body. If they judge that the thing is too dangerous, to the extent that it can even threaten demons, angels, and fallen angels, then you may be wiped out by them. Issei Hyuga inhaled sharply, feeling that his body temperature had dropped a lot. Although he still did not understand what Laius was talking about, Issei Hyuga could still recognize the two words terrorists and wipe out clearly. That was to say, he would be killed by some unknown terrorist. Don't joke around. Before he realized what was going on, Hyodo Ichinari found himself standing up and yelling at Lias. Why would I be killed for no reason? Everyone present fell silent at once. If you must ask why, I can only give you one answer. Lias closed her eyes and said emotionlessly. If you want to hate, then hate the god who put the sacred gear in your body. An indescribably heavy atmosphere filled the entire paranormal research department. Issei Hyuga's expression was extremely complicated. There was resentment for not being able to control his own life and death, as well as anger at Laius' irresponsible statement. However, Issei Hyuga really did not have the right to be angry at Laius. After all, Laius chose to tell Issei Hyuga these things and did not intend to do anything to Issei Hyuga. That was already very kind of her. However, even if Laius could guarantee that she would not do anything to Issei Hyuga, could she guarantee that the fallen angels would not do the same to Issei Hyuga? That was not something Laius could control, and she had no obligation to protect Issei Hyuga. It was as simple as that. Unfortunately, this was too much for humans who had always lived in a normal world to accept. Noah sighed in his heart and finally spoke. Laius, Issei Hyuga is my student no matter what. As I said, you must give a suitable solution, right? Sensei. Issei Hyuga quickly moved to Noah's side as if he had found his backbone and nodded at Noah. That's right. I didn't even know that there was such a dangerous thing in my body. Who would want something like that? Even if you don't want it, it's a fact that it's in your body, Laius said. No one will reason with you just because you want to. Then, is there no way to take the sacred gear out of my body? Issei Hyuga looked at Noah with some hope and anxiety. Hey, sensei, there should be a way, right? Don't look at me like that. Even if there is, I don't know. Noah replied helplessly. I only found out about the existence of the sacred gear yesterday. In other words, I'm also a dabbler. It's useless for you to ask me. Then what should I do? Issei Hyuga was at a loss again. Is there really no other way? I think you're worrying a little too early. Noah shook his head when he saw Issei Hyuga's lost look. We still don't know if the sacred gear in your body has the power to threaten demons, angels, and fallen angels. The fallen angels might not have noticed you. Things haven't developed to the stage you think they are. Issei Hyuga was a little relieved, but his face was still pale. What happened today was too much for Issei Hyuga, wasn't it? It seemed that Issei Hyuga would not be able to recover for some time. No matter what, Laius, send someone to protect Issei Hyuga first, Noah said to Laius. Didn't you say that you're still observing Issei Hyuga? How about close protection and direct observation? That's good too. Laius pondered for a moment and then nodded. Then, before the observation ends, I'll send someone to protect him. Hearing this, Hyodo Ikimari's gaze swept across Kitten and Jurai. Then, a perverted expression appeared on his face. Should I ask Himashima-senpai to protect me? Or should I ask Kitten to protect me? Everyone looked at each other when they saw Issei Hyuga, who was at a loss, fall into a delusion. This guy's skin is surprisingly thick. Chapter 588. About 10 minutes later, a crestfallen Issei and a bitterly smiling Yudo Kiba walked out of the supernatural research department and headed towards the outside of the old school building. Needless to say, Laius had finally decided on the person who would protect and observe Hyodo Kazunari. Just like how Kitten moved into Noah's house, Shiba Yuto would move into Hyodo Kazunori's house for the time being. Until the sacred gear in Hyodo Kazunori's body was fully understood, Leo would decide what to do with Hyodo Kazunori again. So, while Issei's life would be the same as before, it would more or less change, right? After all, with Shiba Yuto, the most popular male student in Kiho Academy, protecting him, Issei would definitely become a popular figure in the academy. He believed that all kinds of rumors about Hyodo Kazunari would spread tomorrow. Noah, who had seen how gossipy the students in Kiho Academy were, had no doubts about that. Noah kept quiet as he watched Issei and Shiba Yuto leave. All sorts of thoughts flashed through his mind. Seeing Noah's silence, Laius asked curiously. What's wrong? Is there a problem with Yuto protecting and observing Issei? No, that's not what I'm thinking. Noah shook his head. I'm just a little concerned about the sacred gear in his body. Concerned about the sacred gear in his body? Laius tilted her head, puzzled. Is there something strange about the sacred gear inside Hyodo Kazunari's body? I already said that I only found out about the existence of the sacred gear yesterday. How do you expect me to answer you when you ask me this question? Noah smiled bitterly, but his eyes were sparkling. However, the sacred gear in his body is definitely not simple. I'm sure of that. According to Leah's, there were differences in the power of the sacred gear. The weaker sacred gear's power was only at the level where it could affect people's lives. As for the relatively stronger sacred gear, if used well, one could even obtain a power that far exceeded that of a superior demon in a very short period of time. It could even rival the power of a god or demon king. The highest level of sacred gear was known as longinus. Noah did not know what level the sacred gear in Issei's body was, but he suspected that it was longinus. If it wasn't the kind of sacred gear that could threaten even gods and demon kings, how could it possibly cause Noah's authority, that was derived from the god of disobedience, to react? So, the probability of that guess was above 90%. Of course, Noah did not plan to tell Laius about that. As mentioned earlier, Noah only learned about the existence of sacred gear yesterday. If he were to recklessly confirm that the sacred gear in Issei's body was longinus, he would have to expose Noah's authority if Laius were to ask for the reason. For now, Noah did not plan to expose his authority to that extent. That would only arouse Laius' vigilance and distrust. Let's not talk about that for now. You, on the other hand, are in a bit of trouble right now? Noah changed the topic. Out of the three of you, one is by my side, and one is by Issei Hyuga's side. You're the only one left to protect you. Are you okay? Laius raised an eyebrow when she heard that. Although losing two of my kin does reduce a lot of defense around me, I'm still a superior demon. You don't think I don't have the power to protect myself, do you, sensei? Minister, she's very strong. The kitten squeezed out such a sentence in her silent state. And Junai senpai is also very strong. Era, thank you for the compliment, kitten. Junai immediately replied with a smile. Yes, I'll protect you, minister. That's for the best. Noah turned around and looked at the scenery outside the window, his deep eyes rippling slightly. After all, the days of peace are probably coming to an end, right? Ever since he reincarnated as a godslayer, Noah himself had become synonymous with battle. Coupled with his keen sensing ability, Noah already had a kind of intuition. Soon, the peace that permeated around him should be coming to an end, right? For the next week, it was like the calm before the storm. Noah did not encounter any strange things. Of course, he was surrounded by a group of first, second, and third-year female students every day. He also had to diagnose some diseases that did not exist in the first place in the health room. Sometimes, he would be asked to check his body with a fanatical look. This experience was considered strange, and Noah experienced it almost every day. And other than staying in the health room to complete the corresponding work, Noah had nothing to do for the day, so he put his mind on living a leisurely life. Sometimes, he played games with the kitten at home. Sometimes, he accompanied the kitten to the supernatural research department to chat with Lias, Junai, and the others. Sometimes, he was asked by unknown female students to confess to him, and then he was a little nervous and tactful. And sometimes, he went to Issei Hyoto to observe his movements to see if he could dig out the true face, ability, and effect of the sacred gear in his body. This was how Noah spent the week. Gradually, it seemed that even Lias had come to the conclusion that Noah did not intend to do anything wrong. She began to let the kitten return to her original routine, which was to answer the calls of the humans who made wishes every day, to carry out the demon's work, and only return to Noah's house in the middle of the night to go to sleep. It was worth mentioning that the kitten was surprisingly like a kitten, and liked to unconsciously stick to Noah when she was sleeping. In this week, Noah had the experience of waking up in the morning to find a cute kitten suddenly in his bed, and it troubled him greatly. Because once the kitten woke up and found that she had unconsciously snuck into Noah's bed, she would throw an iron fist at Noah with a red face. Although, she did not hit him once. And just like that, a week's time passed by quickly. This evening, Noah walked back to his apartment alone, and the kitten was not by his side, which was rare. For the kitten who had been sticking to Noah's side every day for the past week, it was not a common scene. I'm supposed to participate in club activities, but what kind of activities can the Supernatural Research Department have? Noah could not help but laugh as he recalled the scene where the kitten specifically came to the clinic to ask for leave from him. Well, you should give me some space sometimes. The kitten definitely did not like to stick to Noah's side. That girl was just carrying out the surveillance job that Lias had given her. And now, since the kitten was starting to not stick to Noah, it proved that Lias and the kitten were gradually starting to trust Noah, and he did not know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. In short, although Noah was not used to having a kitten by his side, he did not really feel that lonely. He slowly returned to his apartment and came to the door of his room. Just as he put his hand on the doorknob, Noah's eyes flashed, and then he opened the door as if nothing had happened and walked in. Yo! Welcome back. Congratulations on coming back. Thank you for coming back. The person who said such a hip-hop style sentence to Noah was a man with dazzling white hair sitting on the window, wearing a priest's attire. The priest had an extremely exaggerated and twisted smile on his face, and his whole body was emitting a pungent smell. The smell of blood. Chapter 589. From the priest's ferocious expression like a carnivorous beast, the stench of blood that permeated the air was so thick that it made people want to vomit. Noah had seen a lot of blood, and even his hands were stained with a lot of blood. However, he still frowned because of the smell of blood on the priest's body. His gaze towards the priest was unconsciously filled with disgust. Oh. You're not surprised? You're not afraid? Shouldn't you be hiding in a corner and trembling? Although I'm a merciful priest. But I'm trespassing. Sitting on the window, the priest who obviously invaded from the outside tilted his head, the corner of his mouth slowly formed a sadistic arc, speaking of which, I smell it, oh, with this nose, shio, I smell it from your body. Hearing this, Noah's frown deepened. Looking at the priest who spoke like a mental patient without logic and rules, his voice unknowingly carried a sense of disgust. What do you smell? Haha. You don't smell it? It's a very pungent smell. The curl of the priest's lips grew wider and wider. Gradually, his expression became twisted and ferocious because of the curl. He said this sentence with a crazed tone. The smell of a trashy human who deals with evil demons all day long. After saying this, the priest reached into his arms and took out an item. It was a sword hilt without a sword body. But, in the next moment, with a whang vibration, a sharp blade suddenly emerged from the sword hilt. It was a blade made of pure white light that vibrated frequently like a laser blade. Seeing this scene, Noah's eyes narrowed. Light power? Light power. Light and other abilities that could use this type of light power. Just like the magic power of demons, light power was a power controlled by angels and fallen angels. A human who could use the power of light? You're an exorcist? A human who joined the ranks of angels or fallen angels, and thus received the power of light from angels or fallen angels, and worked for angels or fallen angels. That was an exorcist. In other words, the priest in front of him was also a human with power comparable to demons, angels, and fallen angels. My identity was suddenly exposed here? Is this how it unfolds? The priest widened his eyes, but began to twist his body in enjoyment. That's right, Lord Fred is an exorcist, and a lost exorcist. Ah, right, don't ask me what a lost exorcist is, I won't tell you. Or rather, there's no need to tell you. Anyway, you're going to die soon, and I'll kill you. After saying that, the priest, who called himself Fred, suddenly stepped on the window and leaped high into the air. He held a light sword in his hand and spun in a circle in the air. Then, he mercilessly cut through the air and chopped down at Noah's head. Seeing the sharp lightsaber chopping towards his head, Noah didn't move at all. He just coldly looked at Fred, who was descending from the sky, and slowly raised his hand. I'll chop. Seeing this scene, Fred stuck out his tongue and panted like a dog. The lightsaber in his hand left a faint white mark and chopped towards Noah's direction. However, in the next moment, when Fred's lightning-fast lightsaber was less than half an inch away from Noah's head, it suddenly froze in midair as though it was frozen in space. Paw! With a crisp sound, Noah suddenly stretched out his palm and tightly grasped the lightsaber. The lightsaber that could definitely cut through rocks was actually held by an ordinary palm and stopped. Buzz 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 buzz. The vibrating lightsaber kept rubbing against each other violently. Like a chainsaw, it kept cutting Noah's palm. Facing the lightsaber, Noah sneered and suddenly tightened his grip on the lightsaber. Pung! The violently vibrating lightsaber was directly crushed by Noah as if it had exploded. Seeing this, the sadistic and twisted expression on Fred's face was completely frozen. A lightsaber that originated from the light of an angel or fallen angel. Such a lightsaber, which was a natural enemy of demons, was crushed by a palm. Who? Just as Fred froze in place, Noah's body swayed slightly, and his figure instantly turned into a blurry shadow. He clenched his right fist, and with a sharp force, he ruthlessly smashed it towards Fred's disgusting face. Pung! With a muffled sound, a figure also shot out from the space in front of Noah. While spitting out a mouthful of blood, it flew out of Noah's room through the window at a faster speed than when it came. At the same time, another figure also flashed out of the room, stepped on the edge of the window, and shot down, catching up with the figure in front. Pung! A foot heavily stepped on the face of the figure that flew out, kicking the exorcist, who was wearing a priest's costume, to the ground. His body suddenly fell to the ground and smashed into the ground, stirring up a lot of smoke and dust. At this time, Noah, who had given the disgusting priest a kick, landed lightly on the ground. With a thud sound, he quietly landed and looked at the place where the smoke and dust was stirred up. Although I don't know how powerful the so-called light is, unfortunately, you used it on the wrong person. As a godslayer, Noah's body originally had an extremely foul resistance to curses. It was not only immune to magic, but also immune to magic, yin-yang, and other curses with mystical power. Unless it could reach the level of a god or was effective against a god, any mystical power would have no effect on the body of a godslayer. And was the light of an angel or a fallen angel stronger than the power of a god? The answer, of course, was no. In this way, even if Noah used his hand to grab it, the so-called light would be ineffective. Therefore, instead of using a light sword formed by the light of an angel or a fallen angel, it was better to use an ordinary dagger to stab Noah. That way, Noah's body could be left with a wound. An exorcist who acts against humans, and with such a strong smell of blood, there must be a lot of lives that have died unjustly by your hands, right? Noah said to himself. Then, if I kill you, you shouldn't have any complaints. Saying such a sentence, Noah raised one of his hands towards the place where the thick smoke and dust was, and a magic circle immediately appeared in front of his palm. Just as Noah was about to directly deal with the disgusting priest who had suddenly invaded his house with a magic cannon, a cry of surprise sounded from behind him. Noah's hand movement suddenly stopped. He turned his head and looked behind him, and the next moment, he was stunned. He saw that in the corner of the street behind him, a figure was standing there without him knowing, covering her mouth with a look of horror. It was a young girl. A young girl who was about 16 or 17 years old. The young girl was wearing a rather gorgeously decorated nun's robe. Compared to the usual black nun's robe, she had an extra sense of holiness like a saintess. The young girl's head was also wearing a veil that was usually present in the nun's robe. However, even if she was wearing a veil, Noah could still see clearly. He saw the young girl's waist-length golden hair that shone dazzlingly under the light of the setting sun. Father Freed? The young girl's cry of surprise sounded again, telling Noah that she was in cahoots with the disgusting priest. Pa dash. At this moment, accompanied by the sound of something breaking on the ground, a burst of dazzling light enveloped the entire space, causing Noah to involuntarily close his eyes. Then, the bloody aura disappeared from the range of Noah's sensing ability. Not long after, the dazzling light slowly dissipated. Noah opened his eyes without a change in expression. First, he glanced at the direction of the priest who disappeared without a trace, then his gaze turned towards the blonde girl who had also just opened her eyes. When the blonde girl met Noah's gaze, she couldn't help but take a step back, then immediately turned around and fled in another direction. Noah didn't chase after the blonde girl, and fell into silence. Chapter 590. An exorcist invaded your place? The next day, in the Supernatural Research Department, Noah told Leah and the others about his encounter with Fred yesterday, and almost everyone was shocked. Especially Kitten, whose cute face showed an uncomfortable expression. No wonder there was a terrible smell when I came home last night. Noah wanted to tell Kitten that it was his house, not hers. But before that, Leah spoke with a frown. To think that an exorcist from the church would sneak into my territory. How unpleasant. As a place of faith in God, the church was actually directly affiliated with the heavens, and was the representative of God and angels in the human world. As mentioned earlier, demons, angels, and fallen angels had been fighting a great war for the hegemony of the world since ancient times, but no one could do anything to each other. Later on, the war directly fell into a stalemate, and evolved into a war of attrition. The demons, angels, and fallen angels were greatly weakened, and all of them fell into a predicament of insufficient combat power. In the end, the war ended in an inconclusive manner, and the greatly weakened demons, angels, and fallen angels were reduced to the point where they had to rely on humans to survive. Under such circumstances, the demons developed technology that could allow other races to reincarnate into demons, and thus replenish the number of demons. On the other hand, the heavens, led by God, cultivated exorcists through various churches in the human world. Therefore, the church was an organization directly affiliated with the heavens, and even took orders from the heavens. Naturally, the number one enemy of the exorcists was the demons. Although the exorcists were all ordinary humans, they possessed the ability to wield light that was bestowed upon them by the angels. To the demons, light was highly toxic, and if they came into direct contact with the power of light of an exorcist, they would continue to suffer damage. Therefore, even if the exorcists were only a group of humans, they were still a great enemy of the demons because they could use the power of light. But that disgusting priest named Fred shouldn't be an exorcist of a subordinate church, Noah said after pondering for a while. He said himself that he's a lost exorcist. The lost exorcist? Leah's exclaimed in surprise. It was not just Leah's. Other than Yudo Kiba, who was with Itsun Kotu, Tatsun Himashima, and Kitten looked at each other with a serious expression. If it's a lost exorcist, it's a little troublesome. Hearing the conversation between Jurai Himajima and Kitten, Noah asked. Speaking of which, what's the difference between a lost exorcist and an ordinary exorcist? Over the past week, Noah had obtained quite a lot of information about this world from the members of the Supernatural Research Department. However, this did not include the lost exorcist. The so-called lost actually refers to those beings who have left their original group, Leah's explained. Just like us demons, we also have dependents. If our dependents don't listen to their master's orders and leave their master, then we will call them lost demons. The church's exorcists are also divided into two types. Jurai Himashima continued Leah's words and said to Noah. One is the regular exorcists who have received the blessings of the gods in the heavens and obtained the right to exercise the power of light. They borrow the power of gods or angels to destroy demons, which is also quite a threat to demons. Then, there's the other type, the lost exorcist. Leah's narrowed her eyes. Exorcism is originally a sacred ritual in the name of the gods to destroy demons. However, occasionally, there will be exorcists who kill demons for fun. They feel joy from the bottom of their hearts in the act of killing demons. This behavior is considered blasphemy against life. Usually, such people will be expelled by the churches that believe in the gods, or even directly regarded as harmful and dealt with in secret. There are no exceptions. Dealt with? Noah looked up. In other words, they will be directly executed by the church? That's right. Leah's nodded. However, there are also some existences with extraordinary strength who can survive and become the fallen angel's subordinates. Hearing this, Noah more or less understood. Exorcists were originally blessed by the gods to be able to exercise the power of gods and angels, which was the power of light, to destroy demons. If they betrayed the church, it was equivalent to betraying the gods. Naturally, such blessings would no longer exist. In order to maintain the power that should have been lost, the exorcists could only choose to rely on the fallen angel. The so-called fallen angel was actually an existence formed after the angels who originally belonged to the heavens had evil thoughts that they should not have and fell into depravity. Although such existences were expelled by the heavens, they still had the ability to exercise the power of light in the past. As long as they relied on the fallen angel, even if they betrayed the gods and the church, the exorcists could still obtain the new power of light from the fallen angel and continue to exercise the power of the exorcists. The so-called lost exorcists are those who rely on the fallen angel. Leah's bit her thumbnail. Dangerous exorcists who hunt demons for fun and attack demons and humans who summon demons under the protection of the fallen angel. Although they are not regular exorcists, they are still extremely dangerous. No, you're wrong. Noah could not help but correct her. Because they are not restricted by so many rules like when they were in the church, lost exorcists are even more dangerous than regular exorcists. In fact, the lost exorcists I met yesterday were simply lunatics. They would not hesitate to kill humans who were not demons. That's the real danger. Leah's, Junai, and Kitten nodded in agreement at the same time. It was also because of this reason that when Leah's and the others heard that Noah did not encounter a regular exorcist, but a lost exorcist, they were surprised and serious. However, a mere exorcist could only make Leah's take it a little more seriously. Come to think of it, Leah's did not think that the other party could threaten a superior demon. Although Fred's strength was not bad, it was true that he could not threaten a superior demon. An existence of that level could only attract Noah's attention. Noah was more concerned about the blonde nun who seemed to be in cahoots with the priest yesterday. Although it was only for a moment, Noah did make eye contact with the nun. So, Noah still remembered her eyes until now. It was a pair of extremely pure and sparkling eyes that were as innocent as a child's. To be honest, Noah really could not imagine that the nun was with that disgusting priest. Or was she just using her appearance to deceive people? But that pair of pure and innocent eyes was definitely not something that could be faked. So, what was going on? The more he thought about it, the more Noah found himself concerned about the nun. At that moment, Noah shook his head, shook off the inexplicable irritation in his heart, and said to Leah's. All in all, that lost priest is quite dangerous. Even if he can't threaten us, he is still a ghost-like existence to ordinary humans. Yesterday, he attacked me, so it wouldn't be strange at all when he attacks the humans who often summon you and have made a contract with you. After hearing Noah's words, Leah's expression immediately became serious. You're right. If I let that priest attack the customers in my territory, then I, Leah's Gimli, would not be worthy of my surname. With that, Leah's turned her head and looked at Jurai Himashima. Jurai, investigate the priest's whereabouts. Also, tell Kana so that she can be prepared. Yes, Minister. Jurai Himashima bowed respectfully and then walked out of the Supernatural Research Department. I'm sorry, Sensei. The kitten also bowed her head and apologized to Noah. It's all because of me that you were treated as a human who often interacts with demons and were targeted by that priest. From now on, I'll protect you. Well. Noah smiled bitterly, reached out his hand, and patted the kitten's head. Then I'll leave it to you. It was only then that the kitten nodded in satisfaction. Even Riaz, who was beside her, could not help but laugh. The nun's appearance appeared in Noah's mind again. If there's a chance, why don't I try to interact with that nun? Chapter 591. In the evening, Noah exited the academy and walked back to his apartment. He looked at the empty space beside him and could not help but let out a long sigh. He said something cute and cool like, I'll protect you from now on. In the end, didn't he abandon me the moment he was summoned by Liath? Just like yesterday, Kitten did not return with Noah today. There was no other reason. Liath sent Kitten out to patrol as if she wanted to see if she could find the person who invaded her territory. Noah's encounter with Freed was not a small matter. After all, not only was Freed a dangerous person, but the person behind him was also a great enemy to Liath. As a lost exorcist, there was no doubt that Freed was backed by a fallen angel. And since Freed had invaded Liath's territory, the fallen angel behind him might be here as well. So, just in case, Liath still sent Kitten out to patrol the area. At least she could be at ease after confirming that there were no traces of enemies around Komodo Academy. Actually, Shiba Yudo was more suitable for this kind of job. Unfortunately, Hyudo Kazunari, the wielder of the sacred gear, undoubtedly needed more protection than Noah. Since the fallen angel was likely to invade the city, Hyudo Kazunari, the wielder of the sacred gear, was likely to be targeted by the fallen angel as well. Therefore, not only could Shiba Yudo not leave Hyudo Kazunari's side at this time, he also needed to protect him more than before. As for Himejima Junai, Yamato Nadeshiko was Liath's most capable follower, so she naturally had to stay by her side to protect and support her. Hence, the only person left to patrol was Kitten. This was also a decision Liath made after she determined that Noah did not need protection. A lost exorcist who has the ability to escape the church's pursuit and join the fallen angel's side is obviously much stronger than the average exorcist. Against such an opponent, not only can you escape unscathed, but you can also defeat him. Even if the fallen angel comes looking for you, they won't be able to do anything to you, right? That was what Liath said. However, when she said that, she looked at Noah with a meaningful gaze. Presumably, the kitten had already told Liaz that Noah was a sorcerer, allowing Liaz to have a preliminary understanding of Noah's strength. That was why she was acting like that. Noah was not surprised by this. Or rather, if the kitten had chosen to help Noah hide the fact that Noah could use magic, wouldn't Noah be surprised? But, it's good that Kitten isn't around. Noah's mind once again flashed with the pure eyes of the blonde nun. If that's the case, I can try to find that nun. Thinking of this, Noah's heart was a lot more balanced. He quickened his pace, walked into the apartment building, and walked in the direction of his room. Noah planned to walk around the city before dinner. Although this method was like looking for a needle in a haystack, Noah could only rely on luck if he wanted to find the nun without detailed information and knowing the nun's movements. Well, it's not very likely that I'll find her just like that. When Noah walked out of the elevator and arrived at the apartment floor where his room was, the scene that appeared in front of him made Noah's eyes widen. He was completely stunned on the spot. Faintly, one could see that Noah's eyes were completely shocked, which was rarely seen. That was because the scene that appeared in front of him really made Noah, who had just had a certain goal but did not have much hope, speechless. Amidst such a soft cry, a young girl wearing a nun's outfit that wasn't all black was waiting for something in front of Noah's room. She noticed that Noah was standing in front of the elevator door with a face full of astonishment. Her beautiful face showed a trace of nervousness. After a while, the nun seemed to have reacted. After being at a loss for a while, she mustered up her courage and bowed to Noah. "Hi. Hello. I'm Aisha Aljet." In the next second, the pure nun looked at Noah with a firm expression and said so. Although it's rude, but please take me in." This was the first time Noah and Isha met for the first time. It was a meeting that would make Noah laugh every time he thought of this scene in the future, and Isha would be so ashamed that she wanted to die. The sky gradually darkened. In Noah's room, Noah and the little nun named Isha sat face to face at the small round table in the middle of the room. There were 2 bowls of rice and a few dishes on the table, all of which were very common household dishes. However, Isha only stared at the rice and dishes in front of her without moving for a long time. Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Don't just look at it. Although it's not delicious, it's enough to fill your stomach. So, if you don't mind, you can eat some." "Mind? Mind what? Why would I?" Isha immediately shook her head in a panic. She hesitated for a while before speaking carefully. Then I won't hold back." After that, Isha picked up the bowl of rice in front of her, but it seemed like she didn't know how to use chopsticks. She only held the chopsticks tightly in her hand like she was holding a spoon. She didn't know how to use chopsticks and was at a loss for what to do. Noah couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Chopsticks aren't used like this, but like this." At that moment, Noah acted as if he was giving a demonstration. He explained to Isha while demonstrating. After about 3 minutes, Isha finally learned how to use chopsticks. Thus, Isha used some stiff movements to take a mouthful of rice. Under Noah's guidance, she added some side dishes and began to chew. The next second, Aisha's eyes lit up. "So delicious. Is that so?" The smile on Noah's face turned into a bitter smile. "You don't have to comfort me. I know how my culinary skills are. Although it's not to the extent that I can't eat it, it's definitely not to the extent that people would praise it as delicious." "No, it's really delicious," Isha quickly said. "I used to only eat bread and soup in the church. The rice that Mr. Noah makes is really delicious." Unfortunately, there was no need to cook rice at all. All he had to do was wash the rice and put it into the rice cooker. There was no need to test his culinary skills at all. Noah, who felt that it was a little strange, could only touch his nose. "If that's the case, you should eat more." "Okay, I'll definitely taste it carefully." Isha ate one mouthful after another, eating with great relish. Looking at Isha, who was like a little squirrel with her cheeks puffed up, using chopsticks with stiff movements to pick up side dishes with difficulty and eat with rice, Noah became more and more suspicious of why she would wallow in the mire with that disgusting priest. No, it was hard to say whether she was wallowing in the mire with him or not. It was also possible that Isha didn't know what kind of person Fried was and what kind of shady business he was doing. She was just blindly coaxed by him. Such a possibility wasn't impossible. In short, Noah felt that Isha shouldn't really wallow in the mire with Fried. Otherwise, this nun wouldn't have such pure and innocent eyes and naive and romantic actions. Of course, this was just Noah's personal feeling. Noah, who felt that he had to ask clearly, chose to ask after considering his choice of words. "Then, Isha, first of all, please tell me, why did you appear in front of my house?" Isha, who was enjoying her meal, abruptly stopped what she was doing, and a dejected look appeared on her face. After slightly lowering the bowl in her hand, Isha lowered her head and said such a sentence. "Because, I don't know where I can go, don't know where you can go?" Noah also lowered the bowl in his hand and looked at Isha opposite him. "Can you tell me in detail?" Hearing Noah's words, Isha seemed to be a little hesitant, but it seemed that she had already made up her mind before coming to Noah's place. In the end, she met Noah's eyes. "Actually, I escaped." Chapter 592. Aisha Aljet was born in Europe and was abandoned by her parents at the entrance of a church. It was a church that functioned as an orphanage. Her parents, who were unable to raise her, probably wanted this pure and innocent girl to be adopted by the church along with the other orphans. Under such circumstances, Isha grew up under the care of the nuns, and under the influence of the people and environment around her, she developed an unusually devout faith. She had always believed in the God of the Bible. Then, perhaps the young girl's devout faith was discovered by God, and a miracle was sent down. When Aisha was 8 years old, a force appeared out of thin air on her body. It was a power that could completely heal an injured person and restore them to their original state. Aisha, who possessed such power, was discovered by the members of the church by chance. Since then, Aisha's life had changed. Isha was brought to the headquarters of the Catholic Church. Then, with the title of Saintess with the power of healing, she was presented to the public by the Catholic clergy. The church asked her to heal the discomfort of the visiting believers, saying that it was a blessing from God. Aisha firmly believed in this saying. Because if it wasn't for God's blessing, an extremely ordinary girl wouldn't have such power. Therefore, driven by her devout faith and her gentle and kind nature, Isha accepted the job without hesitation. As a result, the young girl became the saintess who was worshipped by many believers and spread by word of mouth. Aisha was happy that her power could be used in such a way. The girl had always been grateful to the Almighty God for granting her such an ability. However, as the saintess, one day, she fell into hell because of this power. You healed an injured devil? Noah was startled when he heard Aisha's words. Then, he became suspicious. Is there a problem with that? Noah asked this question subconsciously. When she realized how serious the consequences of this sentence were, Aisha's smile became a little sad. Because God's power won't heal an evil devil. That's right. Whether in the Bible or other myths, the most common thing was the hostile relationship between God and the devil of hell. For the Catholic Church, who believed in light, devils were undoubtedly dark and evil existences that would make humans fall. In fact, the heavens led by God did frequently fight with the devils and fallen angels living in the underworld. They even fought to the extent of mutual destruction before stopping. This caused the devils, angels, and fallen angels to be still recovering from the losses caused by the war. They were reduced to a tragic situation where they couldn't continue to live without humans. Therefore, for the church that believed in God, the power to heal even the devils who were not blessed by God was no longer a blessing and a gift from God, but the so-called power of heresy. Noah could imagine what Aisha's fate would be in the end. In the world of the god slayers, the witches who once served the Mother Earth were given the title of witches by the Christian religion, and were hunted down. Therefore, Aisha, who was originally worshipped as a saintess, was regarded as a witch because she could heal the devils. It was entirely possible that she was expelled or even killed by the Catholic Church. The saddest thing was that no one in the church that relied on Aisha's healing ability to attract a large number of believers chose to protect her. The members of the church who used to be kind to Isha had completely turned their kind gazes on her into disgust and fear. It was as if they were putting on a show. This was because Isha had been labeled as a witch by the church. It must be that my faith is not enough, so God didn't bless me, right? Aisha said to Noah with a smile. However, no matter how one looked at it, that smile was too sad. So, it's all my fault. From Aisha's smiling face and extremely sincere tone as if she couldn't control her emotions because of her bad past being exposed, Noah heard that this sentence was completely from the heart of the girl. In other words, even after being treated like that, the girl in front of him still believed in the so-called God and took all the blame on herself. Like those believers, she believed that one day she would be saved by God. However, the girl named Aisha probably didn't know what kind of effect her words and behavior had on the only man present at the scene. Naturally, Aisha also didn't notice that Noah's hand under the table slowly clenched. He lowered his head, and an extremely cold light flashed through his dark eyes. At this moment, Noah only felt that his limbs suddenly surged with power, and his body and mind had completely entered into a state of combat. In the past, this kind of reaction would only occur when God, the archenemy of the God Slayer, appeared. However, now, Noah took the initiative to trigger this state. Because, as the God Slayer, Noah's heart surged with strong hostility. The outpouring of hostility toward the so-called God. It was because he had confirmed that Noah's heart was filled with enmity towards his mortal enemy, God, that Noah's body that existed as a God Slayer automatically entered a combat state, and his body and mind were filled with power. After all, the prey had already been identified, right? Well, Noah, who felt his body full of power, murmured to himself with a calm expression. If this is how the so-called God Slayer used the so-called Holy Maiden to collect believers, and when something happened, he labeled her as a witch and banished her, treating humans as playthings, then there is no need to exist. Aisha, who didn't know that her experience had turned the Almighty God from an omnipotent master into a pitiful prey, tilted her head. Mr. Noah, did you just say something? No, nothing, don't mind it. Noah smiled and shook his head. After calmly allowing his body full of power to return to normal, he looked straight at Aisha. So, after being banished by the church, you, who have no other choice, can only choose to seek refuge with the fallen angel? Yes, Aisha's face was gloomy. Because I don't know where I can go, the same sentence, but Noah, who already understood the whole story, heard a different emotion from it. Aisha must be very uncomfortable, right? She was labeled as a holy maiden, without permission, became a tool for the church to collect believers, and was kicked off the altar for no reason. She became desperate and could only seek refuge with the fallen angel. This kind of experience was too dark for a young girl who had not yet reached adulthood. But the girl never complained and still believed in the so-called God. If the so-called God didn't want to respond to the girl's prayer and let the church under his control do whatever they wanted, then there was indeed no need to exist. And Noah finally understood why Aisha suddenly appeared in front of him and asked him to take her in. For this kind-hearted girl, the actions of a disgusting priest and a fallen angel like Freddy, who could kill people at will, were absolutely unsightly. That was why Aisha said that she escaped from the fallen angel. Sigh. Noah couldn't help but sigh. Although he hadn't confirmed whether what Aisha said was true or false, Noah still chose to believe it. The reason was probably because of the pure and innocent look in the eyes of the young woman named Aisha, even though she had met with such a tragic fate. This reminded Noah of the time when he was called a shelter. Those children who bore the same tragic fate and were hated by the world were still innocent. In this case, what reason did Noah have to reject the request of the girl in front of him? I understand. Noah suddenly smiled. If you don't mind, you can stay. Really? Aisha cried tears of joy, and there were tears at the corner of her eyes. Can I really stay here? Noah smiled and nodded, letting Aisha lower her head. Not long after, a teardrop dripped down her face. Seeing this, Noah silently came to Aisha's side and patted her back. Sobs slowly echoed in the room and didn't stop for a long time. Chapter 593. Standing at the door, it was obvious that Kitten, who had just returned, was carrying a backpack on her back. However, she cast an extremely sharp gaze in front of her, and a trace of hostility faintly appeared on her doll-like delicate face. Under Kitten's sharp gaze, Aisha twisted her body uneasily. She didn't know what to do with her slender hands. One moment, she was clutching her clothes, and the next moment, she was clutching them tightly together. She appeared to be very flustered, and she cast a pleading gaze at Noah. Almost at the same time, the kitten's sharp eyes also turned to Noah. What's going on? From the kitten's low tone, Noah heard a hint of displeasure and confusion. There was no doubt that the kitten seemed to have a very serious hostility towards Aisha, who appeared in Noah's house. But that wasn't anything strange. Just like the church, which believed in God, regarded the devil as a target that must be eradicated, the devil naturally regarded the church as an enemy. Because she didn't know what happened to Aisha, the kitten didn't know that Isha was no longer a member of the church. However, the kitten could still recognize the nun's outfit that Isha was wearing. Therefore, the kitten regarded Isha as a member of the church. Of course, even if it was explained clearly, the kitten's hostility was probably still there. After all, Isha, who was expelled by the church, was still relying on the fallen angel until now. And for the devil, the fallen angel was also an enemy. In other words, in the kitten's opinion, the sudden appearance in her house? No matter how he looked at it, Aisha did not look like one of them anymore. It was understandable for her to have this reaction. Okay, kitten, put down your hostility first. Noah had no choice but to say so. From today onwards, Isha will also live with us. You have to get along well. My name is Aisha Aljet. Isha reacted and quickly bowed. Please take care of me. In the face of Isha's bow, the kitten was silent. Her beautiful eyebrows were obviously wrinkled together, telling others how complicated her mood was. After a while, the kitten looked at Noah closely. Teacher, are you planning to betray us? You're wrong, kitten. Looking at the kitten's serious expression, Noah knew that he would not be forgiven for saying perfunctory words. He closed his eyes and then suddenly opened them. I've said from the beginning, I'm just an ordinary teacher working in the Horse King Academy. So, I'm not with the angels and fallen angels, and I'm also not a companion of you devils. I hope you don't forget that. As soon as he said this, the kitten's emotionless face slightly changed. For Kitten, who never showed her emotions on her face, her reaction was enough to see how much her heart was shaken by Noah's words. However, what Noah said was not wrong. From the very beginning, Noah had said that he was just an ordinary teacher who was going to take up a post in Chariot King Academy. He had no power behind him, nor did he have anyone to back him up. He was completely innocent and had no connections with anyone. That was why Leah was not worried about letting Noah stay in Horse King Academy. However, the kitten seemed to have unknowingly taken Noah as one of her own. In fact, it was not just the kitten. Even Leah was starting to let down her guard against Noah and chose to trust Noah. However, trust was one thing, and choosing a side was another. Noah was just an ordinary human. Even if he was close to the Jumanli's kin, it did not mean that he was completely on the demon's side. This was something that had to be made clear. Otherwise, there was no telling when Leah and her party would feel betrayed because Noah would have a good relationship with another angel or fallen angel in the future if they categorized Noah as their comrade without permission. Demons, angels, and fallen angels. These three factions can fight however they want. It has nothing to do with me. Noah made it clear, almost ruthlessly. I'm on good terms with you demons now, and it's fine if you treat me as a companion. I quite like being with you, but if you restrict me from interacting with your enemies because of that, wouldn't that be too much? The kitten fell silent again. That was because he finally understood how excessive his statement of the betrayal was. Kitten, please remember that I don't belong to any faction. I just have a good relationship with the Jumanli's kin. Seeing the kitten's silence, Noah sighed. You are my friends. If you are hurt by anyone, I definitely don't mind getting justice for you. But that's only because of the relationship between you and me, not the relationship between me and the demons. Aisha is also my friend, and she won't hurt you. So why can't I interact with her? Why can't I let her stay with me? Why is being with her betraying you? After a series of rhetorical questions, Kitten was at a loss for words. In short, come in first. Noah also realized that it was too realistic to continue. He shook his head and waved at the kitten. As a cohabitant who is going to live together in the future, you should first understand the reason why Aisha is here before making a judgment. Hearing this, the kitten, who had been at a loss for words, raised her head. Her big watery eyes flashed with relief. After glancing at Aisha, who was looking at Noah emotionally, she nodded and walked into the room. I'm sorry. 10 minutes later, the kitten, who had learned all about Aisha's past from Noah, lowered her head to Aisha and apologized. I didn't know that you had left the angels and fallen angels for such a reason. I'm really sorry for being hostile to you. No, it's okay. Aisha shook her head quickly, then as if praying, she clasped her hands in front of her chest, showing a gentle smile like the Holy Mother. I have a new place now, and I'm no longer a person who is not favored by the Lord. Please raise your head and get along with me. And the kitten nodded heavily. I will get along well with Aisha. Kitten-chan. Aisha was extremely touched, and Noah couldn't help but feel a little exasperated. Wasn't this girl a little too naive and innocent? He didn't think about whether the kitten's words were from the bottom of her heart. How could she be so touched? Of course, the kitten's words were completely from the bottom of her heart. Noah could guarantee this. Thinking of this, Noah suddenly remembered. By the way, Aisha, you said that you have the power to heal everything. What kind of power is that? Leah said that in this world, there were basically only 3 types of people who had power that humans could not possess. One was the holder of the sacred gear, one was the mage, and the other was the exorcist. And other than these 3 types of humans, the rest of the humans generally did not have special powers. That's right, under normal circumstances. In that case, was Aisha an exceptional human with special powers that exceeded the above 3 types of humans? Noah was quite curious about this. However, the power that Aisha displayed next surprised Noah and the kitten. That, Mr. Noah, would you like to take a look? Aisha once again clasped her hands in front of her as if she was praying. The next moment, on the fingers of Aisha's clasped hands, a pair of rings that emitted a soft green light suddenly flashed. That's... Noah was surprised. Aisha. Even the kitten looked at Aisha in a daze and said in surprise. Are you a holder of the sacred gear? Aisha nodded repeatedly, making Noah's heart skip a beat, and he asked. Aisha, you said before that after being expelled by the church, you sought refuge with the fallen angels, right? Yes. Yes. Aisha was startled and then nodded. Seeing this, Noah immediately asked. Then, did you seek refuge with the fallen angels yourself? Or did the fallen angels find you themselves? No, I didn't seek refuge on my own accord, Aisha said with some confusion. I met the organization of lost exorcists after I was expelled, and then I was introduced to the fallen angels. Noah's eyes narrowed slightly, and he began to ponder in his heart. It seemed that Aisha's matter would not end so easily. Chapter 594. Late at night, in the dark room, Aisha and the kitten slept together on the bed that should have belonged to Noah. They breathed regularly, closed their eyes, and fell asleep. Noah was lying on the bed on the floor, and his eyes were also closed, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. However, at a certain moment, Noah suddenly opened his eyes without the slightest warning. His dark eyes, deeper than the moonlight, flashed a light in the dim space. He slowly got up and put on his clothes. Just as Noah was about to walk in the direction of the door, a deliberately suppressed voice sounded slightly. Teacher. Noah stopped, turned his head, and looked in the direction of the bed. The kitten, who was wearing coffee-colored pajamas with a picture of a cat on the chest, had woken up and was looking straight at Noah. Are you going out? Noah nodded with a smile and put on the coat in his hand. Go out and deal with the annoying rats. The kitten nodded without any surprise. Do you need my help? No need. Noah stepped forward, came to the bed, stretched out his hand, gently touched the kitten's head, and said softly. You stay here and protect Aisha. If it was a week ago, the kitten would have slapped Noah's hand away when he made such an intimate gesture. However, in the past week, the kitten often got into Noah's bed when she was in a daze. Unknowingly, she no longer rejected Noah's touch. It was like a cat who was wary of humans was gradually tamed and began to show a docile side to her master. Therefore, under Noah's touch, the kitten's face collapsed little by little. Although she did not show an expression of enjoyment, she was indeed very docile. Then, Please hurry up and get rid of those rats that have irritating malice and wake up people who are sleeping soundly. Since even the cat who specializes in catching rats asked me to do so, of course, I will obey. Noah suddenly smiled and waved his hand. Then, I will be back. Leaving these words behind, Noah gently opened the door under Kitten's gaze and walked out. Then, he closed the door behind him, returning the dark room to silence once again. The dark night continued on. However, in this dark night, there was something even darker than the surrounding darkness. They were like the wings of a crow, completely black in color. Several people with such a pair of wings flew from the night sky at high speed, flapping the pair of black wings, like dark elves who came out to play at night, slowly landing on the street in front of an apartment below. Not long after, a group of 4 people with black wings on their backs came to the front of the apartment and floated in the air. It was a group of 1 man and 3 women. This group not only floated in the air in front of the apartment, but also seemed to be in order to distinguish each other's position. At the front of the group, it was obvious that the leader of the group was a girl with long black hair and a voluptuous figure. Hey, Caravana, is Isha really here? Yes, Line-sama. A big sister with a very serious appearance and a better figure than the former answered. The trace of aura ends here, so Isha should be here. But, isn't this the place where that useless guy Fred was heavily injured? The leader named Line-sama held one side of her face as if she was lying on an invisible bed, and very leisurely continued to ask. I remember, it was a human. A mere human, only that useless guy Fred would be beaten to the point of running back. Line-sama, you don't have to mind. A loli with 2 golden ponytails, who looked to be around 13 or 14 years old, said with a playful tone as if she was making fun of something. That kind of trash, Line-sama doesn't need to make a move. As long as I, Middlet, am here, he can forget about touching Line-sama. There is also me, Donathik. The one who spoke with a deep voice was an uncle wearing a thick overcoat and a round top hat. Leave the matter of the battle to us. Line-sama only needs to continue the preparations for the ritual afterwards. Hearing the word ritual, the fallen angel named Line-sama immediately laughed as if she was intoxicated. That's right. The most important thing is not a human, nor is it that useless priest, nor is it Aisha. I just need to get that sacred gear in her body, the power called Twilight Healing, that can heal everything, and that will be enough. That's right. Middlet nodded repeatedly in agreement. As long as we can successfully use the ritual to extract the sacred gear from the nun's body and transplant it into our body, with that kind of healing ability, Line-sama will definitely be put in an important position by the higher-ups. At that time, Line-sama's position among the fallen angels will also sharply rise. Caravana echoed. And we can also rise to the top of the fallen angels. Perhaps, Line-sama can also obtain the approval of Sir Governor. Donathik once again spat out deep words. As long as Line-sama is favored by Sir Governor, then Line-sama's position among the fallen angels will definitely rise. Hearing that, the intoxicated expression on Line-sama's face became more and more intense, as if she was enjoying the flattery of her subordinates. And that appearance also admitted that Line-sama's wishful thinking was exactly the same as what her 3 subordinates said. Unfortunately, these fallen angels didn't know. Their conversation had already been heard by the 5th person present. The next moment, such a leisurely voice drilled into the ears of everyone present. So that's how it is. When I heard that Aisha was invited to join the Fallen Angel organization, I suspected that this matter was not that simple. I originally thought that it was just the fallen angels who fancied Aisha's ability and found her. I didn't expect there to be such an inside story. Should I thank you for saying it yourself? Chapter 595. Like missiles falling from the sky, the 3 fallen angels named Caravana, Middlet, and Donathik seemed to want to surround Noah, who was leisurely sitting on the railing of the rooftop of the apartment, without giving him the slightest chance of survival. They bypassed the 3 perfect trajectories and flew down. Hum. In the sound of the air vibrating in unison, light particles suddenly condensed in the hands of the three fallen angels, shooting in the direction of Noah, forming a rough-looking spear. It was a spear composed of light. Moreover, it was not the kind of spear used in close combat, but more like a javelin used for throwing. Holding such a spear of light, the three fallen angels suddenly stopped flying. They immediately raised the spear of light in their hands high above their heads and threw it in the direction of Noah. Whoosh! The three extremely powerful spears of light cut through the air, causing a sharp sound to resound in the space in unison. They were like meteors falling from the sky, shooting in front of Noah. Facing the three dazzling spears of light, Noah's figure didn't even move. In the eyes of Calavana, Middlet, and Donathik, it was like Noah had no way to capture the trajectory of the spears of light. He couldn't react at all. Suddenly, a mocking expression appeared on the faces of the three fallen angels. However, in the next second, when the three dazzling spears of light mercilessly fell on Noah's body, the mocking expression on the faces of the three fallen angels completely froze. Bang, bang, bang. Like fireworks that were suddenly detonated, the three sharp spears of light fell on Noah's body. Not only were they unable to leave the slightest trace on his mortal body, but they also seemed to have hit something extremely solid. They directly exploded, scattering light all over the sky. Calavana, Middlet, and Donathik's expressions changed dramatically. Wadash! Seeing this scene with her own eyes, Laneri, who was still floating in the air like lying on an invisible bed, suddenly got up. Her pair of eyes suddenly widened, and she screamed. Impossible! Impossible? Noah, who was sitting on the balcony railing of the apartment building, smiled indifferently. These are your last words? It's quite concise, isn't it? After speaking, Noah still didn't move, but a burst of terrifying magic power suddenly burst out from his body like a wave, spreading in all directions. In the next moment, around Noah's body, a gorgeous magic array quickly rotated and emerged from the space. It was like a turret, aiming at the three fallen angels in the air, Calavana, Middlet, and Donathik. Seeing that it's rare for you to perform a standard throwing kung fu, although it's a bit boring, I'll return a magic cannon. Under the shocked gazes of the three fallen angels, Noah sneered coldly. Don't worry, I won't use my full strength. After speaking, the gorgeous magic arrays that covered the space around Noah suddenly flashed with a faint light. In the vibration of the air, they gathered the magic power that rose from Noah's body. Then, a beam of magic power soared into the sky and burst into the sky. Like a flash, it drowned the relatively small bodies of Calavana, Middlet, and Donathik. No! In the screams that resounded through the sky, the low-level members of the three fallen angels were directly drowned by the flash of magic power. They were annihilated in the light of magic power that was full of terrifying impact. As if they had never appeared, they completely disappeared from this world. The gorgeous magic arrays that covered his body began to dissipate. The terrifying magic power that rose from Noah's body also gradually converged. This part of the world once again returned to its state of silence. However, the atmosphere that permeated the air was no longer heavy. Instead, it was as if they were in the depths of hell. No. Impossible. After witnessing her three subordinates being completely annihilated in less than 10 seconds, Laneri no longer had her previous leisurely appearance. Only fear filled her heart, causing her face to become incomparably pale. This is impossible. It's impossible. How can a human eliminate three fallen angels in one move? You still have that disdainful sense of racial superiority? Noah, who didn't move from the beginning to the end, only raised his eyes and looked at the trembling Laneri in front of him. His gaze was so calm that it made one's scalp numb. That's why you can take advantage of a girl who clearly did nothing wrong without any sense of guilt, right? Noah couldn't help but recall the reason why Isha came to him. Because I don't know where I can go, yes. She didn't know where she could go. But in the end, Isha chose to come to Noah and even begged Noah to take her in. Isha didn't even know a little about Noah. Before today, she didn't even speak a word to Noah. Her impression of Noah was only that Noah could easily defeat Freddy and mercilessly kill him. She didn't know anything about such a person and her first impression of him was very cruel, yet she chose to rely on him. One could imagine how helpless she must have felt at that time. After all, if she made the wrong choice, she would be doomed eternally. Fortunately, Isha met Noah. If Isha had met an unsympathetic person who coveted Isha's beauty and took her in, what would have happened to her? She didn't even need to think about it. In the end, Isha still chose to come to Noah. It wasn't that Isha was naive enough to believe that there was no bad person in the world, but she really had no other choice. The one who forced Isha to this point, other than the church, was the fallen angel who coveted the sacred gear in Isha's body. Just because someone's body carried a completely unwanted but useful power, she completely squeezed out the value of this person, even at the cost of her life? In the world of a black bullet, what was the difference between those trashy humans who kept saying that the cursed child was the hope of humanity and asked them to give up their lives to fight for it, yet they openly accused the other party of being a monster? So, you have succeeded in pissing me off. With a bone-chilling ruthlessness, Noah reached out his hand to Laneri, who was floating in the air in front of him. I heard that the fallen angels used to be angels that served God. Because they had evil thoughts that they shouldn't have, they fell and became fallen angels. Then, if I can let you return to the embrace of the Lord you used to serve after killing you, you should be grateful to me, right? As he spoke, a dazzling magic array appeared in front of Noah's palm. The mana radiating from the array illuminated Noah's cold eyes. But I still want to say, you don't have to thank me, just don't let me see you again. Hearing those words and feeling the terrifying mana rising from Noah's body, the fear in Laneri's heart finally erupted. Ah! While screaming hysterically, Laneri ran in the opposite direction from where Noah was and ran for her life. Looking at Laneri, who was running away at the fastest speed in her life, the beautiful magic formation in front of Noah's palm suddenly spun. Bang! In the next moment, along with the dull sound of a gunshot, a magical light beam carrying a scorching heat tore through the air and blasted towards Linali. In just a few moments, it caught up with Linali and engulfed her figure. Boom! Under the pitch-black moonlight, a gorgeous beam of magic power exploded in the air, stirring up strong winds and bright flames, illuminating the horizon. As for fallen angel Laneri, she had already set up her subordinate's footsteps and silently vanished into thin air, vanishing into thin air. Noah's pitch-black eyes reflected the colors of the flames in the air. He slowly withdrew his mana while looking at his hand and smiled helplessly. After becoming a god slayer, the already foul mana has become even more out of the norm. After processing the mana, the magic that is shot out can no longer be used as a bullet, but as a cannon? If Qing Zi knew, he would probably feel that it's unfair, right? You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.